What is up, everybody? Welcome to another season of the ASL. I'm Tastosis, of course. Joined with me is Tastosis, and I got to say, it's been too long, my man.
It has been way too long. We need like 10 ASLs a year. This is awesome, man. I'm just so happy to be back. The second ASL of this year, and it looks so good. Oh my God, we're going to go over the players in a minute here, but unbelievable lineup. Maybe the best we've ever had.
Yeah, I got to say, it's good to be back, man. We just returned here from Gamers 8, so we were doing a little bit of StarCraft 2 and 1 overseas. That actually postponed this ASL slightly, but now that we're done with that, we're going to be getting into this. It's going to be many, many StarCraft matches being cranked out through the weeks to come here, as we will once again be crowning an ASL and effectively a world champion at that.
Yeah. Who is the best player right now, right at this moment? It's really hard to say, but we have basically everyone who's anyone signed up for the qualifiers and went ahead and qualified. It is just crazy, our lineup. We're going to look at that in a moment. Of course, taking a look at the prize pool, the schedule here. This tournament is going to be going on for months.
Yeah, it's going to be an epic one, man. Obviously, first place takes home 30 million won. That's... I guess when the economy wasn't totally messed up, that was about $30,000. I think that might be like around $25K right now with exchange rates and the way that money is kind of moving up and down all over the place around the world here. But we're going to start this off with the round of 24 and then obviously the round of 16, and things will really heat up into the round of 8 as we move on and continue to eliminate players, ultimately crowning that champion.
Yeah. The round of 24, of course, is all best of ones. The round of 16, only the first 2 matches are best of ones, followed by best of 3s. That's a really long round. Then the round of 8 is where we start those amazing best of 5s. Cannot wait for that. Best of 7s beyond there. I know you always say you like it when it starts at the round of 8, but honestly, the round of 16 for me is pretty amazing, Tasis, when we start getting those long days with the best of 3s.
We've got a lot of maps here to deliver to you guys. Some of them you're probably already familiar with. Obviously, maps like Polypoid, maps like Neo Dark Origin, Retro's back. But we've got 4 new maps. And Invader I'm especially excited for. But I think all these maps are going to offer some interesting play. Some new ideas, obviously, at work with these maps. But I think many of these do still stick more into the realm of normal, more into like a map that you could kind of ladder on and map out. It does seem like we've calmed down from some of the maps maybe like Sparkle a little bit. So I'm really looking forward to this. The race distribution, that's about as even as you could ask for, right? 9 Zerg, 8 Terran, 7 Protoss here. And we'll see what exactly that maps out to when we get to the round of 16. Sometimes these numbers move around. Sometimes it stays very even.
Yeah. I hate it when it moves around too much. I hope that won't be the case. But we really have the all-stars of every single race. There's only one like super high-level player that didn't make it in that I felt was an upset, which was Sock for Terran. But he had plenty of fill-ins, including, really shockingly, C, the streamer, has made it into the ASL once again.
Yeah, we've got some names I'm sure we're all very, very familiar with, like the Jadong, the Bisu. Some of the GOATs are back. We, obviously we don't have Flashback yet, so it's going to be a lot more of a toss-up here as far as who's going to be actually advancing here in this ASL. It certainly could not be more ambiguous when you don't have the most dominant StarCraft player of all time in the lineup.
Yeah, but we have just about every single other player, right? Some people are asking about Fantasy. Fantasy chose not to play this season. We don't know. He might be back next season. He was kind of talking about that on his stream the other day. But as is, that's like the only active top-level player other than Sock that is not here. This is a crazy, crazy set of groups. Today, we are going to be going into Mini, Leta, Soma, and Mong, which is pretty wild. That's like the second best Protoss in the world and the best Zerg in the world right now in the same group with 2 very dangerous Terrans.
Yeah, Mini, he's been on top of the world at times, but he's not always consistent, and I think the strategies he chooses, especially in a group, I don't know why that is, for how strong of a player he is overall. So, fingers crossed he could advance here. I know that he should, but he should have in many other moments in ASL and kind of floundered with some weird build order picks.
That is for certain true. Oh yeah, one quick little side note here while we're still looking at the groups. In Group F, we have Ivory, a completely unknown player who was able to take down Piano and Soma during his qualifier run. A much lower ranked player. We'll see how he ends up doing. But first, we are going to go with an interview for our players.
Hello everyone, welcome to the ASL Season 16 Ro.24 opening match brought to you by Hot 6 Energy Drink. After last season's finals between JYJ and Mine, the new season of ASL is kicking off today. What new upsets and new pages in history are we going to witness this time around? Please look forward to it. And with that in mind, we're going to have an interview with the 4 players competing in today's Group A match. Hello everyone. Good to see you all. Okay, we're going to talk with the first seed player, Mini first. Hello Mini. Hello. I heard that you were on a roll in the qualifiers. So I feel like you'll be quite confident coming into the round 24 match. How are you feeling today? Well, I don't think I fully agree with what you said, because I wasn't in my best form in the qualifiers. I lost one game against Mong. And usually I never lose a single game in the qualifiers, so this was a big surprise for me. But overall I think it's better because I have the motivation to try harder and advance in the upper rounds. Although you did drop one game against Mong, all the rest of the matches were a clean 2-0 win, so I think you can be quite confident. But Mini, after your ASL Season 12 win, many people have been stating that your performance thereafter has been quite poor. So in that regard, you probably want to bounce back, right? I mean, yes, in the past I prefer single best of 1 matches. But since a certain juncture, I began to be kind of fearful of best of 1 matches. So I believe that as long as I can just get out of the group in round of 24, I should be able to reach higher. Well, that's why you have so many fans here at the venue today supporting you. And now we're going to talk with Leta, who's returned to the round of 24 after a long time. Hello, Leta. Oh wow, there are so many fans who are welcoming your main stage return in ASL. But honestly, it's quite understandable because your last ASL match was back in Season 12. So, how are you feeling today? I mean, it's been 2 years since I last played on the offline stage, so I must say I'm quite worried and nervous. And that's why I practiced a lot. So I hope I can show that today in my performance. I mean, you put on a very impactful and striking performance back in ASL Season 10. You made it to the round of 16 after taking down both JYJ and Bisu as the first place in the group. So, what do you think about this season? Honestly, it was quite rough back then. It was a very tough group. I think this season is no different. It's equally hard. And people are jokingly saying that this is where my funeral will take place, but I want to prove them wrong. It's not going to be a funeral, it's going to be a festival. Then if you can make it to round 16 today, do you expect yourself to be first seed or second seed of the group? Well, if I do make it to round 16, I think I'll be advancing as the first seed. I'll try to be confident in today's match. I want to have a statement win and try to show everyone why best of 1 matches are scary. Well, it almost sounds like a declaration of war towards Mini. Did you make good preparation for the first match? Yes, I did. Well, people say the map is quite hard, but I'll try to show good macro and hopefully come out on top. We'll look forward to it. Next is Soma. Hello, Soma. You had a loss against a new player, Ivory, in the qualifiers, but you bounced back strong on day 2 by winning all your games to qualify for the round of 24. How are you feeling ahead of today's match? Well, first and foremost, Chogu provided me with food and accommodation, so I'm feeling really good today, good condition. I came here with the purpose of advancing to round of 16. Well, Group A is filled with players that you might find quite difficult to play against. But despite that, back in Season 10, you did take down Mini. So if a revenge match takes place between you and Mini today, how do you think that's gonna go? Well, I couldn't exclude the possibility of facing against Mini today, so I did primarily focus on that specific matchup. I'll gladly face him today. And then what do you think about the first match against Mong is gonna go? How's that match gonna go? I mean, with Mong, Mong, loosen up, like you're scaring him right now.
많이 했고요. 근데
I mean, Mong's a good player, so I practiced a lot for the match against him. But I do anticipate Mini to move on to the winners match, so I focused on that mostly. So it feels like Soma is already expecting himself to move on to the winners match. Well, let's talk with Mong now. Hello, Mong. Mong, you've made it to the round of 24 ASL many times now. What vibes do you get for this season?
좀 일단은 연습하는 과정 중에서
As I've been practicing for ASL,
어렵다라고 최근에
I realize that games have been rather difficult.
오늘 전략은
So today's strategy is to give up on things I cannot keep and take the things I need from my opponent. That's gonna be my mindset and strategy coming into this opening day. And as for preparation, I'm focusing on one single race. One race, is it a Protoss, Terran, or Zerg?
제가 잘해줘야 될 것 같아요.
Well, the hint is that Soma is going to have to play well today. Well, if I were to try and comprehend Mong's scenario right now, you want Soma to advance as first place and yourself as a second, right?
플랜 B고
Actually, that's the contingency plan. The main plan is for me to advance as first place, actually. What you're saying is plan B. I mean, I did invest a lot of time into making plan B, but I want to proceed with plan A.
데이터가 되지 않습니까?
Like,
맨날 24강에서
I need to make it out of tough groups to gain more data from strong players. I'm like sick and tired of getting eliminated in the round 24. But you still have made it to round 16 twice in the past. But why are you leaving out my round of 8 advancement? I mean, of course, the round of 8 advancement too. You seem a bit sensitive today. But you said that your strategy is to sacrifice small to take large. In the first match against Soma, will you be in the position of sacrificing or taking? Soma has already made a statement that he's going to take everything from you.
여기로 확인하시죠.
So what about you? Well, let's check it out in the actual match. And now I'm sure the fans are very curious about the players, so we're going to read out the fans' questions. We have a lot of questions regarding the map pool since this is the opening day. Many complicated maps have made it to the map pool this time around. Mini, what are your thoughts on the map this season?
뭐 크게는 불만 없는 것 같은데.
I mean, I won't complain about it that much,
첫 경기가 2인용.
but historically, the first match of ASL has always been played on a 2-player map, but this time it's become a 3-player map. I find that a poor decision being made. I really like the idea of starting with a win over a 2-player map,
어느 정도는
but for a 3-player map, luck becomes a big factor in deciding the winner due to the base positioning.
들어가면 좀 자신 있을 것
So apart from that, I'm not too dissatisfied. Okay, seems like Mini isn't too bothered by it. Well, the first 2 matches of the 8 round of 24 will be played on Apocalypse. So a question regarding that map. I want to give this question to Leta and Mong actually. Well, there have been opinions and voices that Apocalypse is not particularly good for Terran players. So I want to hear your thoughts on this later. I mean, I think the AfreecaTV staff who is in charge of ASL has completely abandoned Terran race. It's a very difficult map for Terrans.
테란이란 종족이 왜 강한지
Well, nevertheless, I'll try to show people why Terran is a superior race. Well, then what about you, Mong?
는 생각보다는 할만하다고 느꼈어요.
Personally, I think it's quite doable actually.
시즌에 그러니까
This season,
3번 연속 나왔기 때문에
we've had 3 consecutive Terran champions, so I did expect the round of 24 to be designed a little bit harder for Terran players.
예상을 했을 때 비해서
But compared to my expectation, the difficulty hasn't been set too high.
감사합니다. 예.
I'm actually grateful that we're not playing on a 2-player map. So Mong seems quite confident despite the change in map pool. Okay, here comes the next question. Season 15, last season, there have been a lot of upsets. And one of the huge upsets we had was Soma and Mini getting eliminated early. So I think you two would personally want to avoid the same catastrophe from happening. So Soma, how do you think this season's gonna go for you?
네, 질문 안 하나요?
Are you not gonna ask me about the map?
아포칼립스에 대한 생각을 약간 말하자면
So I have a few opinions on the map as well.
서구가
There's one mineral added, and I thought it would be beneficial for the Zerg, but it turns out Terran also has a little bit of benefit from that as well, so a little bit sad about that. And what was the question again?
이번 시즌은 뭔가 기운이 좋아요.
Oh yeah, I'm getting good vibes this season.
그래서 그런가
Maybe it's because I slept at Chogu's house, I don't know. I think I can win this season. Well, you seem quite excited today, Soma. On the other hand, Mini is very serious and calm right now. And you probably don't want to make the same mistake as well, so are you confident this season? After I won ASL, I kept on getting eliminated early. I couldn't show good performance for my fans. I hope to reach higher this season. We look forward to it. Well, this is the last question. Every player has his own signature playstyle. So I want to ask the players on who they find the trickiest to play against. So Mong, which player do you find difficult to play against? Could you repeat the question? Oh.
짭제 약간 뮤탈 쓰는 거.
I would say Soma's Mutalisk control, Mutalisk micro. It's quite tricky. Yeah, I find that to be a trickiest. So what was the win rate like in practice? I'd say 13%.
근데 토스전은 또 승률이 괜찮았어.
But my TVP win rate has been actually good. It's like
승률은 그래도 토스는 한 60% 70% 나온 것 같고.
it was like 60%, 70%.
나온 것 같고.
While TVZ win rate was like 13%. But I'm pretty sure Mong practiced hard and he still has a card up his sleeve that he hasn't disclosed yet. So I want to look forward to his performance as well. Before we wrap up the interview, let's hear their resolutions going to the opening match. Mini, you first. Well, this season I want to make it to round of 16. I'll try to make my fans proud. And you, Leta? I will try to make miracles today. And you, Soma? I will try to put on an entertaining match for the fans. And lastly, Mong?
열심히 하겠습니다. 예.
I will try my best today. Alright, we look forward to it. And that's it for the pre-match interview with the 4 players competing in Group A. Thank you.
극강 텐션의 어텐션 핫식스와 함께하는 ASL 시즌 16 과연 누가 먼저 가장 신중하게 오르게 될지 준비된 경기 지금부터 함께하시죠.
All right, well, this is it, Tastosis. We're ready to start this season of the ASL. Again, I said it's been too long. I'm so excited to finally be back here doing this. This group, it's got Mini, Soma, Mong, Leta. This is a pretty crazy, strong group. You know, I personally expect Mini and Soma to move on, but you know, with Mong and Leta, you do not want to count those guys out.
Yeah, I think there's so much danger in this group. Like, for instance, Leta with his Wraiths in TVZ is super dangerous, and like his type of style is something that could kill Soma. And then Mong, like, Mong TVP macro is unbelievable. Like, Mong is legit one of the best TVP players in the world. And, I mean, his TVZ's all right, too. Like, there's some real upset potential. And you were talking before about Mini maybe doing some crazy builds. That could happen. This is best of one. Anything can happen in this group.
Yeah, and again, Mini is someone who's fallen out many times since, you know, winning an ASL has actually very much underperformed. I was really ready to kind of usher in the whole new era of Mini and just see all the crazy things he was going to do, but he has proven to be a player who can't navigate a tournament system very well. It seems like he can win a long series against almost anybody, but the group phases are a very different beast, and I want to see how he chooses to play this year today, and you know, how risk-free is it going to be versus, you know, very risk-on, and then, you know, how do those build order interactions go with the players he's against, because I think this isn't like my special take on Mini anymore. I think everybody would basically agree with what I'm saying, that he's had a very hard time with trying to get deep into tournaments, you know, with the builds that he's bringing into it.
That's for sure, man. That's for sure. We did just see that new map, Apocalypse, that we'll be starting on here, 3-player map. We'll talk more about it. We don't have a lot of experience on that map yet, but what you said about Mini, everyone does agree with it. I've had a lot of people ask me about this. Like, look at this. His win rate, 20 and 20, 50% in ASL with his PPT. That's not, like... he does so much risky stuff, man. And this is the thing. You know, I say this, and I say that I say this, like, every season when we're talking about Mini, but your super strength is also your super weakness, man. It's, like, kind of corny, but his risk-taking is his willingness to do things right on the edge to get either a big advantage or fall flat in his face. Like, he utilizes that in best of ones against inferior players. Like, he is simply better than Leta in every way. Okay, and look, I don't hate Leta.
Ooh, Leta with a wink.
Yeah, no,
I'm blushing now. I can't cast this.
He's a charming guy, man. But, like, Mini is literally better than Leta in, like, every single way. But he might do something crazy here. Like, he might just, you know, do some sort of wild new Nexus first, no scout. Who knows? But if he could just draw some of that back and occasionally when he's way better, do something a little bit safer, I feel like he would have much better results.
Yeah, he's always... Leta's playstyle, I think, is also... Even though it's brought him success, it has also held him back.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very defined playstyle, like you mentioned, Wraiths versus Zerg, and you know, he does seem to like drop ships. Not that, you know, no, you like drop ships, that's not good, but he does seem to kind of rely on these harass attacks, which I think do allow players to try to maybe hard counter him a little bit. That being said, he is the very best at what he does in a lot of ways. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Leta's going to be changing out of that playstyle anytime soon. We're a quarter of a century into this game, and he's been here since the very beginning. And so we're getting ready now to go into game one here with Mini and Leta. Again, Mini the favorite, but is this going to be his ASL, or is he going to flounder again here? He's lost in a couple upsets in previous seasons. And yeah, I mean, Leta, always a player I'm eager to cast her. This guy is so different from the rest of the Terrans.
He really is. And he has been working a lot on his TVP, I know. He's been getting coaching from Light and whatnot. We're going to see if that's going to help out with him some. I think he's reinforced some of his early game macro quite a bit, which is very important in the matchup right now. But here we go. It looks like we're ready to get into this first game with Mini against Leta. All right. We have Mini in that bottom right, and we have in the bottom left Leta. Apocalypse, we didn't really talk about it before. They did show the graphic of it. It is a 3-player map with the spawns kind of similar to Sylphid that people will be really kind of aware of. And yeah, it's you kind of have like this straight strip of land outside your main base that has a couple of bases on it. I have seen some games on the map, but I don't really have a lot of experience, so I'll be learning kind of along with everyone else on Apocalypse.
We've got some ideas for this map, but definitely, you know, whenever you and I cast a map like this for the first time, the cast is always a little bit more exploratory, because this is where we really get to see the very best players in the world show us what they think the very strongest builds are in the most important tournament that there is for StarCraft. Obviously, the studio, by the way, is completely packed. This is filmed in the Jamshil studio, from Hungary. Excellent. Welcome. But I'm glad they moved this over to the Jamshil studio. I think it's, I don't know, it's one of the newer studios they have in Korea. There's currently 3 main studios that they do events out of. There's one in Jamshil. There's one in Samsung, which is probably what most of you guys have seen games from. And then there's one in a place called Digital Media City, which is still in Seoul. It's not actually a city, so it's a weirdly named location. But yeah, very cool to see this. If you guys do want to go down and watch an ASL match live, this is by Lotte Tower, which is the tallest building in the country. There's an amusement park down there and a lot of other cool stuff. So definitely go check it out.
Yeah. And this studio, I actually think feels the most epic between the location plus what the inside of the studio feels like. It's super cool.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of awesome. I'm glad that the ASL is going to be in there this season. Now, it looks like Mini going to scout Leta second, and he is chasing that probe down, or that SCV down rather. Mini is extremely good at this, and we'll see if Leta can kind of shake him a little bit, because Mini can deny scouting completely with his probe occasionally.
Yeah, he's one of the few players that will full-on tail the SCV when he spots it with the probe here, which is interesting. It requires a very, very different mindset because you're not scouting them at all.
Yep.
But the reality is that if you're this good at moving shot, which he is, and I think he's going to clip him in this last shot,
Yep.
unless the SCV can juke correctly.
Oh, look at the jukes. But he does end up getting it. He gets it a little bit late. The funny thing is, if he was like a few pixels closer at SCV, it wouldn't have even gotten to see the gateway. Like, he was at very max range that whole time, so it's a lot harder to hit. But he does chase it down. He does kill it. And look at this. Like, already you can see that paying off. He's making his bunker before a command center, which is, like, generally not needed. You know, normally you make your command center first and your bunker afterwards, and it works out timing-wise. But, like, Leta's playing extremely carefully here, so Mini will get his Nexus up first.
Yeah. And, you know, again, Mini doesn't see anything on this side of the map. That's what's so weird about it. Like, he doesn't know the bunker's up yet. He's probably confident that something like this might be forced. But this is something I really respect about Mini is the way that he can play the game like this with just no intel. And I know there are builds out there where you can scout extremely late, but the way he's able to do this and kind of navigate the game so well is so impressive to me. And now he's already gotten 3 shots off on the Vulture, so that's already going to be extremely low. He's going to run in with the Dragoon. I think he does. Yeah, he does, in fact, see the commands that are being made, so he knows exactly what kind of game he's in for.
Yeah, and Leta here, he has that Vulture out, but as you said, it already took 3 hits. Like, this is not a super optimized opener here from Leta. So, like, this is Mini's type of game where already it feels like he's been outplaying Leta a fair amount, but Leta is going to go into those dropships you were talking about. You definitely nailed his style on that. He does really like dropships in this matchup, but that, like, he's almost synonymous with it, so Leta should have that on his, or Mini should have that on his mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right, is that I think especially going for dropships or not going for dropships, that's one of the things you want to be the best at oscillating between as a Terran when it comes to build orders, because if you're just, like, always going dropships, it just isn't that hard from the Protost's perspective. If they know that you're not going to be pushing at all, and they can just use all their Dragoons to catch the dropship or you know, deflect it at the bare minimum, that's a pretty comfortable position, right? And so that's fine, I guess, for Leta. I mean, you know, this is a best of one. You got to go with what you're best at, but I want to see how prepared Mini is going to be for this.
Well, he's got some Dragoons out in the front. It looks like he is putting a pylon down near that 3rd base location right now. He did go for the quick robo as well. And, you know, we'll see if he actually pulls the Dragoons back at the right time. I think almost, I would be shocked if he didn't. But this is some great Dragoon micro here, and also just, like, awareness, right? He blocks mines from going on top of where his 3rd Nexus would be. So he's not going to be slowed down when he's ready to take that 3rd.
When you see Vultures out on the map like this, you have to suspect that it's going to be a drop, right? I mean, the fact that you have your Dragoons out here, you're afraid that he might run in there and generate a threat with that. You know that also it's possible that with the mine set up and maybe Vulture speed's on the way, a dropship could be inbound here. But at the same time, Mini's going to go for a drop of his own. He's actually got a shuttle. I think the Reaver's not out yet, but he's going to grab that in a second. And then he's going to be able to try to move out on the map. Meanwhile, the dropship's going to be getting there first. I see 1 Dragoon ready over here. I'm sorry, I see 3 Dragoons now as we move the camera up. So he could be ready to take this on, but it looks like it's going to be coming just in this little cavity down here in the very bottom of the map. So the shuttle's actually going to maybe even spot. Or not see the dropship.
Just misses, and he flies close enough to the spider mines that Leta should see that, so he should be making a Wraith already. Now the Vulture is going to be dropped here behind the mineral line. Mini gets his Dragoons up, but 2 of them are glitching a lot, so he is still going to get a lot of probes there.
Yeah, he gets the final dropship out. Meanwhile, the shuttle is going to come over here, drop the Reaver. It looks like it's not going to get the SCV. But the Vultures were cleaned up pretty easily. I don't know how many probes were killed exactly, but I think this is not a terrible position right now for Mini. Mini still has a lot of opportunities that can be created here with the Reavers, the Zealot, and the shuttle. And looks like so far so good. He's really done quite a bit of damage. He's hit that tank for the 2nd time, but as long as the tank is being pulled away, it won't take the full amount of damage from the Scarab.
Yeah. Ooh, doesn't get that Scarab off. So a little bit of a mistake there, and that drop takes a lot of damage on both the shuttle and the Reaver. He ends up with only like 3 SCVs, but he did get some good Scarab shots overall. I would say that that's like, it was good enough by Mini. I definitely agree with you. And he's got that third Nexus on the way. He has his shuttle speed. Observers are out. And of course, the build that Leta has chosen here, you kind of have to sit back with for a little bit, right? Like, you go dropship into Armory, and you have to sit in your base, and you have to go up to 5 factories after this. So it'll be a while before he can put any more pressure on.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit. I mean, that's one thing with dropship is that you're developing the game in a very specific way, and whenever you do that, you're also not getting the kind of resources you want to maybe do a push right away or anything like that. I'm kind of surprised he actually just left the dropship here. I know that it's hard to get it out, but I feel like if you leave it there, I mean, the Protoss knows there's nothing in there, right? But it also knows that it can find that and eventually kill it off. So kind of a questionable move there. Maybe Leta getting a little bit nervous. I don't want to psychoanalyze too much, but it just seems like an odd move, right?
Yeah, that, like, did he forget? Did he?
Yeah, right?
You're leaving it in a place where if he gains vision, he is going to be able to kill it off. And Mini's attention to detail about things like that is really, really good. So a little bit of a waste. Part of the power of a dropship, like, even if a dropship isn't actively getting you damage or probe kills or whatever, just the fact that you have one and Protoss knows that you have one is powerful, because then they got to be like, okay, I got to watch the probes here. Every time you make a Nexus, you got to think about, like, okay, do I get the cannon right now? Do I keep some Dragoons here to try to chase it away? But losing it like that, it's going to cost you almost the cost of a siege tank to get another one.
Yeah, and, you couldn't be more right about just that having the dropship out makes the Protoss afraid. Like, you enforces cannons everywhere, and it kind of keeps you on your toes, because maybe even 2 dropships come in. It's, vultures with mines and tanks, and then your cannon's under threat. But taking out the dropship like that, I mean, at this point in time, the Protoss knows what's happening. He knows there's not going to be another command center coming out here. And so all you have to really do is be ready to fight a 2-base push. And the easiest way to do that is to get a bunch more gateways like we're seeing right now, and then get Reavers and shuttles. You can really kind of take the Terran on, force them to siege a lot, and then pick a fight when it's absolutely in your favor, as long as you've got the patience for that. And Mini's the kind of player that does.
Yeah, Mini, he's setting up perfectly right now, with the speed shuttle, getting the Templar tech out here as well. He's going to have that access to Psy Storms. It looks like he wants to take this kind of high ground area above, the expansions. And, I mean, it looks pretty defendable for Leta down here to get into that third base. But I could see him having a problem, in the mid-game trying to push up here against Storms from Mini.
Yeah, the Storm Drop is the final tech, really, for when you're dealing with a powering Terran like this. Because the Terran can get to a point where their army is going to be a little bit better. Again, it's not the easiest thing for a Terran to 2-base push when against a Protoss, but, like, unless you get really, really money shuttle, Scarab hits, excuse me, it can be hard. But when the Terran is pushing like this, and look, I don't see a third command center put down here. Sometimes we'll see the Terran shift gears and do that, but we're not at that point yet. It's when they really have to force the push that a couple blanketed storms obliterate everything.
Yeah. If you're going too fast, all of your stuff is clumped. But look at this, the counterattack here.
This.
Yeah, it's very good from Mini. Gonna fly right into that main base, over the turrets, drops out his Reavers, drops out a Psy Storm or 2 as well. Wow, a lot of SCVs gonna go down.
Now, I thought the Reavers were going to be in there for sure. I thought it was going to be just Zealots. And now I'm a little bit worried here, because Mini did really severe damage here into the main and killed a lot of SCVs. But the truth is, the Terran's going to push out. And, like, what exactly is going to stop this? By the way, he's attacking the scanner. Is he going to try to get a DT? Just going to put that idea out there.
Oh, my God. You might be right about that. I did not even think about that. Brilliant moves here from Mini. He is going to go ahead and try to do a Zalt Bomb. He gets rid of a single siege tank with it only. Now, those High Templars are very important. If he can snipe all the High Templars, like, this is possibly a key to victory here for Leta.
Yeah, well, I mean, he at least baited out the storms, right? He did have to give up some vultures for that. These Reavers are still doing damage in the main. I mean, I was going to say he should try to attack depots, but I guess at this point in time, the supply is so low for Leta. What's the point? He's going to actually try to push even further over here and maybe come in and try to actually kill the SCVs that are over there. Here's the DTs.
Oh man, you
Now-
were completely right about that. He's only got one scan left now. He does that scan and gets it off, but yeah, look, another DT is waiting. You're going to be able to scan and kill that, but I guarantee you he's making more.
Now, I think if he just gets one DT over here to the left, oh my God, anything he doesn't. That was horrible.
That was so bad. Like I don't even know what he's looking at right now, but his Reaver's still dealing damage. The DT now getting in here and starting to clean things up. What a wild game number 1 here. I think we're just going to see this all cleaned up at this point. I think Mini has done enough.
It has never ever occurred to me in that moment to go for the scanner. I was mentioning, or actually I was going to mention, excuse me, it seems a bit odd to send the Templars to Storm because you don't have anything that could really fight this, but I guess the reality is the Reavers can blow up the scanner. And then, with this kind of push, you don't have a vessel out right away. I think, oh my God, what a game to start this season off, man.
Yeah.
Never stop learning. It just took 25 years to figure that out. I mean, I've seen people tech into DTs, like let's say you're going for carriers and you're in one of these weird base trade situations and you're running around the map. I know getting DTs and trying to bait out scans with a shuttle, that's been done before, but this idea of bombarding the main, storm dropping, Reaver dropping, and then just going right on top of that scanner and killing it. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That was pretty big brain. There's no question. And that high ground is unbuildable, so you can't make any turrets up there. So he's like, yeah, you can't make turrets. You're going to be down to 1 scanner. With this type of build, your scanner is not super early, so you're not going to even have that many scans. That was some really smart play from Mini, and he pulls that victory right out. He really forced Leta into that position, too. If you're killing that many SCVs in the main, Leta just has to counterattack. You've spent so much of your army in there, like that's his best move.
It seems so obvious now that we see it. All right, guys, short break coming up next. Soma versus Mong as we continue on in day 1 here of the ASL.
우주급 텐션, 최고의 토킹, 핫식스 토킹.
너도 탐세봐, 탐세로.
여름이 왔다. 마음껏 청량하자. 청량한 순간에 언제나 칠성사이다. 똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성사이다 제로.
레전드 국가대표 손호찬님 모셨습니다. 반갑습니다. 스트리머의 입장으로서는 BJ 입장에서는 아프리카 사람 다 됐네. 오늘 작정하고 왔구나. 10원 사람 아프리카 삼겹. 아프리카의 심장에서 아프리카 얘기를 하는 거야.
Welcome back, everybody. I could not be more hyped for that last match. I wanted to get in a squirrel suit and just fly out of my window, just going through Seoul, dodging buildings after seeing that. That was just so sick. While we're here, I guess, look, this is the first day we're doing this recording. We don't know the rhythm of the show exactly. While we're here, we might as well plug the Patreon. That's patreon.com/ASL English. We appreciate the support. This is the only way to support us in our endeavor to keep the history of StarCraft 1 alive in the most important and significant tournament in StarCraft 1 here at the ASL. So we appreciate it, and we love you guys for it.
Yeah, you guys really saved ASL, when they canceled that English broadcast, and we have shown, those VODs get a ton of views. So thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in. And if you've been sitting there thinking, I'll support the Patreon later, this is a great time to do it here at the beginning of the season. We really appreciate you guys. So do check that out at patreon.com/ASL English.
And if you guys can sign up, please sign up for a year. 1 month would not cover the cost of making this, so we really appreciate it, guys. And yeah, man, I mean, I'm just glad to be back. I felt like it's been too long since we had an ASL, and I gotta say, dude, just as a Protoss player, to see a game like that,
yeah,
it's just like, okay, I'm like so fired up. Like, I want to just turn my stream on right now and start playing. Like, I just,
yep.
You seeing the 3 shuttles fly in there like that, and I think that idea, even though it's fairly new as far as the lifespan of this game and the meta, that we've seen that many times before. But the idea of committing the Templars in there, which basically really slams the economy, then going for the scanner, and then basically relying on the fact that 1 or 2 DTs can just lock out a push for the rest of the game and win you. That's crazy.
Yeah, he was even wasteful with the DTs, but he did a great job strategically. He was on point. Now going into our next match, it's going to be this man Soma going up against Mong. This match is a little bit closer, I think, when you look at the two players. Both of them seem to have poor win rates for the matchup. Mong historically has been weak in Terran vs. Zerg, although he's gotten a lot better in the last couple of years. Soma is super strong, but he's been so deep in ASL, his losses are to people like Flash. So you can't really take his percentage that much.
Did they both go for Nightwish the Kingslayer? Okay.
Yeah.
I have
How
my volume.
Embarrassing, man.
Fairly,
it's like
yeah, they
worse
both
than
wore
wearing
the
the
same dress to the dance. That must be some meme between the two of them. The odds of that are just Nightwish. That's not a band I've thought of in forever.
Yeah.
Well, this is funny. Isn't Nightwish technically, it's the band that takes the most skill? Is that what they call it with their guitar solos? Like, is that correct?
Oh my God. I never heard that before, but they do sound like Terran players.
Yeah, they do sound. What is there? Nightwish. Is Dragon Force another one? The ones that are just the most overly complicated guitar solos. I wonder if that's what's going on here.
That's pretty funny. I like that.
Yeah, sorry to jump in while you were giving your stupid facts, Tastosis, but I had to ask the real important questions here. Like, did they really just pick the same song? By the way, cool to see some foreigners down here at the ASL. Guys, ASL is going to be going on for months, so it's definitely a good time to book a trip to Seoul and get a ticket down here to the studio.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's spanning longer than I thought. I think I saw that the finals was in October, like mid-October. So definitely a long season this time, which is great to see. But yeah, the second match that we're going into, I think that this is a very important match because you never know what happens if Soma drops down that loser match. But
oh yeah,
dude, Soma right now, absolutely the best server in the world. Let's see if he can do it here against Mong.
All right, we've got our Zerg here at 12 o'clock, Soma here, and Mong in the bottom left. At what position on the clock is this, Tastosis? I'm always a little bit of...
7?
Is that 7?
8. It's 8.
I do feel like when we call out positions on the clock, as far as the map goes, it's really only useful if it's like 12 or 6 or 3 or 9.
Yeah,
Anything after
that's
that,
how
I feel like
do
people have to then look at the mini map and imagine a clock there and start to move the little hands around.
Truly. And of course, if we want like StarCraft 1 to carry on, Zoomers don't even know how to read this type of clock.
That's true.
Like you gotta slow it down a little bit, guys. Like let's not. All right, bottom left, top right, that type of thing. Okay, that's important to do.
This was something we decided a long time ago. I think basically when we started GSL was that like, do we really want to use the clock that often? And I've gone back to using it occasionally because I do feel like 12 o'clock is so obvious. But then we get a start of the game like this from like 12 o'clock's over here, and then I'm like in the bottom left, and it's just I'm all over the place.
Yeah, that's the way I do it. I've just accepted that 12, 6, 3, and 9 are spots, and then the corners are spots where it's like top left, bottom right type thing.
Yeah, we I think it's a good way to center, and then we'd be like, and over here in the southwest, we have this other guy.
Some commentators would be like, yeah, and over here at 7 o'clock, like when I hear something like that, I'm like, you can't expect me to have my eyes instantly dart to wherever that is because I don't know. Exactly. I have to really think about it.
It bothers. No, I can't do that. Yeah, man. Well, I'm excited for this match, too, here. Again, we already christened the season with Game 1. Just such a cool match to see. Soma, I think this is a guy we also have had very high expectations for. He's really delivered a very cool, very abusive play style. He actually reminds me a lot of Mini, just in the kind of ways he knows how to, like, twist the arm of the player in forced situations. He is really good at being cheesy and aggressive and diving at opportunities, but he's also very good at like making it look like he's being cheesy and aggressive and just not going for it at all and playing a macro game. And so it's going to be an interesting match. I do think he's probably heavily favored against Mong, but I think that Mong in a game and in a best of one, it's a brutal set, right? Things could happen where he could pull this off for sure.
Absolutely. Mong could upset this whole group. There's no question. Like, he is a very, very strong player. We don't think about him that much because he's honestly not someone who's ever going to win a championship. I feel harsh, like, judging him like that, but, like, it's kind of true, right? Like, he's not a championship guy, but everyone knows that he's good enough to beat everybody. So we'll see what he pulls out against Soma, but, like, I feel like Soma is maybe the most important player in ASL right now. Like, at this exact moment, it feels like the Zergs are slightly underperforming. There's like this kind of negative feeling. We had last season, the numbers in ASL were greatly, influenced by Light's Valkyrie build that he really popularized, and Zergs had a really hard time getting through to ASL, and it was very Zerg light. And then, this season, like, it's 8 racks. 8 racks is like super strong. It's super in right now, and the Zergs are having a very hard time against Terran because of it.
It does seem like without Flash being here, Terrans are killing it still, which is wild to me. I mean, the last 2 finals we had contained 4 different Terrans with different play styles. This could very well be like another season where the Terrans are going to really deliver. It seems like they've come up with a lot of new ideas and a lot of different approaches at once. Mm-hmm. Even seeing Fantasy, here at Gamers 8, it's like, you too? Okay, man. Like, that's kind of crazy.
Sure.
Now, hold up. We've got a little push coming in here.
The drones are going to be something, man, a lot of potential here. The drones drill down and get on top of these Marines. The Ling's going to go ahead and transfer over to attacking. 2 drones died here. And so overall, I think that this was good for Mong. There was a Ling counterattack, and we didn't get to see exactly how much damage that did. But kind of a cute maneuver. If you get in and kill a couple early drones, it screws up Zerg more than anything else you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to dismiss a drone kill, even if you watch a lot of StarCraft. Just seeing, if you play Terran or Protoss, even when you see workers get killed, obviously it's always, something, but killing drones is so big. It's so, it just completely transforms the way they're going to progress through the entire game, because Zergs need to get a certain, very specific, usually small number of drones out early, and then tech into a few things so they can fit into a position where they're going to be able to carry the game on with better tech.
Yeah, and any time that you delay anything Zerg is doing, it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. Like, Zerg timings are so super, super sharp. So something like if you can attack with that, kill a couple drones, and then that pushes back the mutas by 20 seconds. that like allows Terran to get a whole nother building before the turrets or something like that, right? Like we might be able to see Mong, for instance, if he wants to add a 4th Rax or add a factory before he has to make turrets. Because that's really kind of the gatekeeping thing for Terran is like, when are the mutas coming? When do I have to make my turrets?
Yeah, exactly. And the turrets you spend a lot of minerals on. I know they're cheap, but when you just see, you know, how many turrets have accumulated and the idea that you could have fit in a couple extra buildings there, that's huge. So we actually have the 3rd hatchery starting. This is, you know, pretty early, honestly. He's basically getting the 3rd hatch before he has mutas out, which could be punished, I guess. Although, you know, as I'm learning more and more about this map with every game, it's kind of a hard position to get to, right?
Yeah, that's really far away. Like that's quite the march. So I think that's pretty safe for Soma. I think it's a pretty good call for him. The turret's all going up. This is 3 barracks play here for Mong, so it's going to be like a middle amount of Marines. It's going to be like pretty safe overall. He might be able to put pressure on the map. We'll see. The mutas come in and do get an SCV, but Mong is going to move out right away.
So keep in mind this base that Zerg has, it's not ideal, even though it's far away. Just the shape of the base itself, you'd always want a tiny ramp or something. You could plug that up with a lurker. And so a base like this, the Zerg has to be okay taking a straight-up fight, not some kind of position that can be leveraged, like stacking 2 or 3 lurkers on top of each other with an overlord at a ramp. This is, you know, it's going to be very important to basically control Terran ever getting up to that point, because if Terran can push all the way up there and take a fight, they will kill it. Doesn't mean that they will get that guaranteed, but it does change the whole dynamic of the way this game's going to go and how many corners or lack thereof Zerg can cut.
Yeah, if you lose your 3rd base as Zerg, that should be game for Terran at a high level. Like that's generally speaking, that's going to be you know, a position that's like almost impossible to come back from. But you can see Soma, he's really grouping up a lot of mutas, has a full group now. And Soma, most people consider him to have like the best mutalist micro. So let's see if he can pull that off here in this very high pressure situation. Gets rid of the turret. You know, those depots are one of the weaker areas for Terran that you can harass. Oh, definitely some misclicks there from Soma, taking a lot more damage, losing a muta, and not getting a shot off.
Yeah, if you look at the exit, oh man. Did he drop another muta there?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I thought I heard the sound effect for that. Yeah, I mean, this is not a terrible position for Mong, honestly. Like, I was going to mention the area outside of the Terran's base. There's 2 large ramps to go up, and you can really abuse counterattacks with that as the Zerg, because the Terran can never really split his army and go up both ramps at once until he has a crazy amount. But Soma, maybe a little bit too fearful that the Terran's going to even get across those ramps, was already trying to hammer away at that.
Right now, Soma, you know, he is keeping Mong back pretty well and doing a good job on these ramps. Look at that, gets a lot of Marine kills right off the bat. He's droned up heavily. Soma has a really solid 3-base economy right now. He does have 4 hatcheries for macro. He's starting to pop out his Hydras. He just got his Evolution Chamber for that plus Carapace upgrade. It feels like he's going to just get into regular late game, right, with like Defilers and Lurkers.
Yeah, I mean, he's kept the Terran basically staying back here. And so we're going to see those Lurkers morph over here. I think he's going to be in pretty good shape. You know, he can basically defend this 3rd. He can defend pretty much everywhere. I mean, the Terran hasn't even gotten, like, to the middle point of the map, right? And we have a lot of potential Lurkers that could be made here. Soma just dropped in a bunch of gas. Did he actually start the Lurkers already? Not totally clear on. He does have a Defiler mound here as well. So, I mean, Soma's in pretty good shape, and he has actually started all those Lurkers. So he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, we did see Mong with a couple siege tanks, but I don't think that he has a properly timed push here. We should have Consume done by the time he gets tanks across the map. Like, he's having a hard time. This is the first time he's really been up and been able to control that high ground there. You can see his 2 tanks kind of sitting back. If he even tries to bring those out, Soma will just kill them with the mutas.
Yeah, I mean, Soma's basically really taking advantage of being in between where the tanks want to get across, and it's not easy for Mong to get over here and sort of seal this area off, and now the Lurkers are going to move out here. If he burrows these and puts them on hold position, I mean, if the vessel can see it, that's one thing, but one misstep and you could lose your entire army. In fact, Zerg's going to move up even further here. A scan comes down. He does end up actually, well, he kills off 2, but at a bit of a price.
Yeah, loses a few mutas here as well. The Marine count does get reduced, but really he just needs to slow this down slightly to make sure, you know, his Niduses are up, both entrances. Looks like that's going to be the case. Make sure he has Consume. He's definitely going to have Consume by the time Mong gets across the map. But Mong has a little extra bonus play here. He fills up a quick dropship and going to send that across the map. That is going to impact his 1 starport vessel production, though, right? So this one vessel is very important right now.
Oh, he hiccuped the movement there. And so the tanks are going to be in range. I mean, they can still hit some of these, Lurkers can still hit some of these tanks, but it looks like he's going to back up. The dropship's going to come in. It seems like Soma just literally didn't see this with the first Overlord that's coming out. It looks like, though, it's also not going to get anything done either, so I guess it's kind of bad on both sides, but in the end, it's actually better for Soma.
Yeah, the dropship, at least I guess it brings the mutas away, so you're able to very quickly go across the map now. Now he goes over and hits this third, but Darkstorm is already waiting for him. So this is a little bit painful. You know, you've purchased 3 siege tanks. You know, they aren't cheap. It really hiccups your vessel production early on. He's also gotten the dropship, which hiccups that vessel production early on. So I'm looking at this, and it feels like Mong has been ineffective at everything so far.
Yeah, no, I think even the very push itself seemed to backfire, right? I mean, you get the 3 tanks there, and it's the moment the Darkstorm is done. It seemed like Mong basically progressed too slowly, and so his entire strategy didn't pay off, and now Zerg's going to be in late game.
Yeah, and Mong, now I understand what's going on here, right? Like, he did this push, and it was ineffective, but actually the siege tanks and the 1 starport vessel were planned because he is switching into mech. We are going to have a mech switch out of Mong.
Very weird. I didn't even catch the Tastosis. I'm glad you noticed that. So are there that many more factories being made here?
Yeah.
We don't have the production tab open.
He's adding a lot of factories right now. He's got the armory. He went 1-1 upgrade, so it's kind of an old school type of switch. One thing to mention is Fantasy said publicly after the Saudi Arabia event that he thinks that mech switches definitely can come back. He was planning it against Jaedong, didn't end up going for it because of the state of the games, but he definitely thinks, and he is one of the fathers of the mech switch, that there's still a lot of play left with that. So that's exciting to see this out of Mong.
That's very cool. You know, the truth is there seems like there's a very limited number of top-tier Terrans, even top-tier Terrans, that have the depth of understanding of mech that's, you know, that can match the true greats like somebody like Fantasy. So it's interesting to see that perhaps Fantasy's input and saying that may have influenced Mong here. But, yeah. I mean, that being said, dude, it's a long ways to go before you're going to get a whole lot done with mech. And if this is going to be a mech game, it has to be an extremely long one. Mech games versus Zerg are very grindy.
They really are. You're definitely not going to get a quick kill, especially considering you have all these Defilers out already. You know, if you open with mech, the game looks a lot different, and the Defilers might not ever come. But, yeah, in this case, I think you're right. Like, this, if Mong is going to end up winning this, it's probably going to be pretty long. You know, one of the things I'm wondering about is, are we going to see Soma pop a bunch of Queens out? Because Queens are very popular as a counter to mech, right? Getting the Broodlings and try to pop all the tanks. So is that something Soma is going to back up here?
Yeah, I'm interested in finding that out. Oh, man, no scan here. This is brutal. All right, well, the drone's going to get that base up. Yeah, one thing about going for Queens is I mean, yes, Broodlings do just kill tanks, right? The problem is it takes so long to get the energy for it. It seems like it is actually kind of worth it. This was an idea that was toyed with, like, really early on. Mech's been around forever. But a lot of people kind of discarded the whole play altogether because it just seemed like going for Queens, like, couldn't be the right way to play because of how long it took to accumulate the energy to then get the Broodling off. But we do seem to be, in the last 5 years, back into this being an idea that is actually very much the right way to play.
Yeah. It's actually a big part of why you don't see as much mech anymore. And Fantasy specifically said he thinks that there are good counters to Queens now. And I think I have a good idea of what it is. Another pro Terran that I follow a lot, known as Soso, he actually goes EMP. Like, he doesn't go irradiate at all. He just gets vessels in EMP and just kind of zones out the queens a little bit with a group of Goliaths and then just tries to EMP everything that comes in. I don't know if we're going to see any of this. I'm just throwing it out. It's an exciting moment here as Mong is getting up to 4 bases, continuing to produce a lot of mech. He's trying to control the map right now with the vultures and doing an okay job, but I feel like Soma is zoning everything back enough right now.
Yeah, so far so good here for Soma. I mean, the mech hasn't really made much of a, left many fingerprints in this game so far. I mean, the Zerg's basically continuing to grow. We don't have the mech units really at play yet, other than the vultures planting mines everywhere. It does seem like Mong has still tried to push out to no avail. And, one thing when you do go for mech switching like this, which is very different from just starting out by making mech, is you really don't want to lose the medics and marines and vessels. You need to basically position them in anchor positions, and I feel like Mong's already screwed that up. And so now we're going to see the mech kind of come out, and it's like we have like 3 medics over here healing each other, splash damage, and not a lot of progress made. The idea with the bio is that, okay, you can't kill them with Dark Swarm, but you can at least control key points on the map, and then you mech behind that, and you try to like explode in growth. But I think that Mong was too cavalier with that infantry, and so here we are. I think he's in a much more shaky position.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. That's like one of the key concepts of that mech switch is utilizing the bio that you've already made to slow Zerg down, but it doesn't feel like Soma is particularly slowed. Like, he's already got 5 bases up, and he's making 2 more. Right, so almost every base on the map is going to be taken here, which is a little bit rough. And look at this, the switch into Mutalisks. Where's the bio? He's lost multiple vessels. He's lost his bio for the most part. I don't think he really has Goliaths. Like, Soma may be able to do a lot of damage with these Mutas, pick off a lot of siege tanks.
It's easy to think that Mutas are out of the picture when you fend them off with the bio early on, only for them to come back in here. And you're totally right, Artos. It's like, if the Mutas outnumber the Goliaths enough, the Goliaths just actually don't counter the Mutas at all.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. Mutas and Goliaths are much more closely matched than I think a lot of people realize.
Yeah.
And, with Zerg, I mean, if you have this much minerals and gas coming in, you just turn all the larvae into Mutas. It's very hard for the Terran to catch up. I mean, Terran's on, what, maybe 6, 7 factories right now?
Yeah.
And any Mutalist that's going to be killed off, I mean, that Goliath count, any Goliath that's killed off, that count just drops a little bit lower. I also want to point out there's a very high chance that we see a big drop into the main at some point in time here.
It looks like he's already thinking about that. Like, I don't even know what he's going to offload, but, like, everything is going to be powerful right now. He has Ultralisk tech, he has Lurkers, he has Defilers.
Oh,
yeah, look at this.
This is so good.
Oh, man.
Didn't even occur to me to do something like that. That's really smart.
Well, that's going to slow you so much. You can't really clear that. You're using all of your vessel energy right now to try to deal with Mutalisks. So, like, as soon as those are under Darkstorm, like the Lurkers, the siege tanks can't really hit them. It's rough. Now, Ling's clearing out through the center. Dude, Soma is, like, dominating Mong right now. Dominating.
Yeah, I mean, Mong is in a really bad spot. I actually think this game could end, especially if Mong can't keep, like, 4 bases up. It looks like he's kind of struggling to do that. Soma is almost maxed out. He's got the right idea, too. Yeah. He's just setting these Lings on suicide missions to soak up all the mine hits. And
it's pretty wild to see, like, the amount of macro hatcheries and everything, the drop that went in there, the different tactics being utilized. It's like Soma is a kid tearing the legs off of a daddy Mong leg spider.
Yeah, he is definitely, like, playing with his food a little bit, even, if you want to call it that, too. I mean, he's just completely destroying him here. Now, there's going to be another push coming out, but, I mean, we already see the idea that drops can just come in over and over again. Although, I guess he's going to go to the other side of the map.
Oh, that's funny. I think dropping the main here is a bit better. He's got a lot of ultras in there, so wherever he drops is going to be hard to clear out, but it does look like maybe he's going for, like, that 4th base location. I guess, really, if you shut anything down right now, it's very close to a game victory at that point. Mong really needs to keep these bases up. His supply is okay right now, right? Like 150-ish? Okay, 150-ish Terran mech can do a lot. Oh my god, he's catching the Overlords! That's a good moment there for Mong. A really good moment.
What is Soma doing with his overlords in the middle of the map like that? I mean, that's like where the mech is going to be, you know? It looks like he's got enough ultras and lings. He could probably come in here and clear this. Well, maybe not, actually. There's so many siege tanks.
Dude, siege tanks are very good against ultras. Mech doesn't care about ultras that much. Like, you have to be really overwhelming to make the ultras work. It's almost like when you see people go only Dragoon against Zerg or something. It's like, well, you can do it in certain circumstances.
Yeah, you're really ahead.
Yeah. Same thing with ultras against mech. If you're really ahead, the ultras are going to do a good job, but otherwise the tanks just splatter them. They don't care about those additional armor upgrades.
Well, he's going to come down again. I mean, plays like this, it's going to allow Mong to just be in this game for a little bit longer. Keep in mind, though, that every tank that falls, it becomes that much more complicated later on. I mean, basically, when you're going mech, almost all your gas goes into tanks. And if the tanks are killed over and over again, eventually the gases do dry up. Eventually, there aren't that many more bases on the map that the Terran can really take. And take a look at this, Tastosis. We got a nice... I almost feel like he thought he had lurkers when he didn't. I thought he was going to just dark swarm the base itself, but yeah, I mean, these little harasses are doing pretty well. Remember that Mong only has 2 bases that he can mine from.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. In fact, his natural is definitely mined out. His main is mined out, as you mentioned, right? And so these 2 bases that are under siege, this is where he's supposed to be gathering his money, and he's unable to. It's like the Dark Swarm, the Defiler's sitting under the command center. You can't land it. This is super, super annoying. And with the amount of bases he has, the amount of drones he has at those bases, this really does not look doable. One thing to mention also, this has been so fast and tempo-oriented and macro-oriented for Soma, not a single queen being made.
Yeah, that's a good point. We mentioned the queens, and then we kind of moved off to another topic, but Soma never going for the queens. I mean, again, you don't have to go queens, but that does seem to be the more modern way that people are approaching this.
Yeah. Mong has some great upgrades. The problem is, like, Soma just has so much income right now that it feels like he can kind of do anything. If Mong could somehow, like, raid a couple bases, like, maybe that's where you start to come back. But as is, Soma just coming in once again, dropping ultras on top of the siege tanks here.
Oh my god.
And there's just so much, just endless waves. This is the Zerg Swarm.
Yeah, I think that Mong, he's put up a pretty good fight, but you can see his supplies at like 110 right now. And every tank that is killed, it's going to drop that even more and more. And it just seems like his position now, he's barely got it. Okay, in fact, he's going to just give up. I was going to say it looks pretty fractured as is. But there you go. I mean, Mong trying to bring out some of those ideas that Fantasy was talking about. But, the energy of it wasn't there. The application of it wasn't there. And I think we can chalk some of that up to sloppy usage of the infantry and the tanks and the vessels when he had them. You really can't lose that when you're making that switch over.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. He wasn't able to kind of stabilize, and then the mutas came in, and it was a rough game. Mong going to go to that loser match. Huh?
Yeah, when I've seen Flash do that, like, he keeps the infantry and the vessels alive for so long while he's getting the mech out. It just seems like it's a better way to approach it. Anyways, we got a great match coming up after this. Up next is going to be Soma versus Mini.
Dude, that is like a potential ASL finals right there. Yeah. Seriously, this is the best Zerg against the second best Protoss currently. It's going to be an amazing best of one, and this is where we get to see what type of build that Mini wants to bring out. That's what I'm very excited about here, is where does Mini bring this? Like, are we going to see a Nexus first? Are we going to see him get a Stargate before a cannon? I don't know.
I don't know. One thing to keep in mind is that, I've said it a couple times, but I have to keep repeating it because it's a real possibility, especially against Zerg. He's made some questionable builds. He's done things like get very greedy with a Nexus where you could just lose to a 9-pool, again, in a best of one. He's elected for some pretty techie, weird, one-base stuff against Zergs in the past. I'm hoping that we can see an interesting fast expand play, but I also got to point out that Soma is like the killer when it comes to destroying Protosses before they get that, that storm upgrade coming. So a lot to watch for coming up here, guys. I do believe we're going to go to a break. All right, we're not. We're going to do the Hot 6 thing. Should we throw in a commercial, Tastosis? What do you want to do?
Yeah, well, we're not going to drink any Hot 6.
We're not drinking Hot 6. The Korean casters are drinking Hot 6. We will be right back with the third best of one. Don't go away.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식스 토킹.
너도 탐세봐 탐세로.
여름이 왔다. 마음껏 청량하자. 청량한 순간에 언제나 칠성사이다.
똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성사이다 제로.
레전드 국가대표 손호찬님 모셨습니다. 반갑습니다. 스트리머의 입장으로서는 BJ 입장에서는 아프리카 사람 다 됐네. 오늘 작정하고 왔구나. 10원 괜찮아. 막 기가 삼켜. 아프리카의 심장에서 아프리카 얘기를 하는 거야.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for waiting. We're ready now to go into the winners match. This will, of course, decide who is going to be the first survivor of the round of 24. It'll either be Mini or Soma.
Yeah, we're going to be playing on Invader, which is one of our newer maps. As you can see, it kind of looks like a Space Invader, so it's a great name for it. You know, I haven't, again, really gotten a lot of experience with this map or any of these new maps, so don't have a whole lot to say about it, but very excited to see what their takes are.
Yeah, this is one of those maps that definitely does allow for some proxies, some pretty crazy aggro stuff in this kind of vacant area outside of the main. I don't think it's going to play as much of a role in a PvZ matchup, but you know, this does harken back to certain maps that we've seen before. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to get this started and see what the matchup PvZ is going to look like exactly on this.
Yeah, especially with that kind of like little ramp going down to the side of your natural. Like, exactly how is Mini going to deal with this situation, right? Like, it's a longer path to go there. Yeah, I'm not really sure, but the fact that he didn't veto this map, that he's willing to play this map, he definitely has some sort of plan. And I think like he's probably the perfect one to look to see how does a Protoss want to open up here on Invader.
I was actually going to say that same thing. I totally agree with you, Tastosis. Yeah, he's probably the best guinea pig to kind of send out on this map and see how he's going to open up. And he's probably going to be laying the blueprints for Protosses all over the world that are going to try to learn about this map and how to approach it. Whenever we get a new map like this, you know, there's a lot of fragility that can happen on either side that could be abused and exploited as we kind of iron out the wrinkles in the way that we understand it. So, I don't know, maybe some kind of a Hydra bust here from Soma. You know, he's pretty crafty at cracking these Protosses open before they really get the game started. And, of course, the loser of this is not eliminated. They'll go up against one of the Terrans that survives the loser's match. But, I mean, we could not have asked for a more hype winners match here for Group A. This is Mini versus Soma, a best of one. See who can move on to the round of 16 here in the ASL. All right, guys, we've got Soma here in the top left. In the bottom right is Mini. We want to just put one quick plug in here for the Patreon. If you guys are enjoying this and want to support us and the team that is helping to get these VODs edited and recorded and casted, obviously, please go to the patreon.com/ASL English site and sign up for a year. Your support means the world to us. It is helping keep the dream of ASL English coverage alive here.
Yes, you guys are great. Thank you so much for all the support so far. Definitely do check it out, guys. Now, let's take a look. See, this is what we were talking about with that ramp, where it's like, okay, well, there are kind of two entrances here. One takes a lot longer to get to, but how do you end up playing there because of that, right? Like, do you need to block that very quickly? Are you afraid of, like, speedlings more here? Or is that almost a trap? Is Mini going to have it planned out as such that it's like he wants you to go speedlings?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question, right? We've got the probe coming across this map, and pretty soon here we're going to have our questions answered for how exactly to open this up. When you said this map was shaped like a Space Invader, right, Artosis?
Yes.
And that's why it's called that. In my head, it looks like it's a bow-legged SCV.
Oh, yeah, it kind of does look like that.
Yeah, it's like an SCV that just rid too many horses as a kid, and now has got bow legs. Bow legs, I don't even know how to say it. But I don't know how the two entrances are going to be utilized on either side. This is a matchup where both races have ways they can rush each other. We do see the Forge coming down first. And I don't know how cannon rushable this map is. It looks like there's spots that you could cannon rush on, but I've basically given up on trying to figure that out on my own because there's so many little parameters that a pro can use to know if it's going to be something they can do, and I'm more willing to kind of wait and see if they're going to go for anything like that. But so far, no cannons have been laid, no pylon behind the minerals to block that off or anything abusive like that. When you see somebody go for a cannon first on a map like this, they are giving up a lot of potential to be aggressive outside of that cannon rush cheese.
Well, I wonder if this might be better because of the second ramp, you know? Like, if you make a wall with the gateway and you're basing it on a Zealot defense, it's like, can you stop lings coming from both directions from getting into your main base? Whereas if you have the cannon, it is gonna, if you place it correctly, I guess it can hit units coming in from either direction. But, not entirely sure about that. I mean, obviously this is something we're going to learn throughout the season.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to take a little bit of time to unpack this. So that means that the Protoss is going to have the opportunity to start to increment Zealots out and maybe try to be aggressive there. It does seem like the Zerg's third base is pretty reachable. And you could certainly run Zealots over there and try to get behind the minerals and, cause some shenanigans over in that part of the map. But so
doesn't
far,
it feel like that third is really close, Stasis? Like, if he makes the Zealots,
absolutely.
he's going to be there in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, it seems like he gets there very fast, and so you definitely got to be ready as the Zerg to kind of take that on. And, I mean, so far, it's been a very textbook opening here. I mean, nothing too crazy. Artosis and I on the commercial break were pretty convinced that, something dramatic might happen with these two, but, I mean, unless we see a Hydra Den thrown down, this is basically sizing up to be a pretty standard game.
Yeah, it's not like you have a ton of aggressive options early with the Forge expand, right? Like, this is the first Zealot walking out at 4 minutes. And then over on Soma's side, like, I guess we don't see the layer yet, but I think we will in just a moment. So,
it's been pretty long.
Look, if we get a good macro game between these two on the new map, I would love that.
Oh, I think that would be the best of all possible outcomes, to see a more standard game and how it plays out. We can see that Mini sent the Zealot out underneath the Overlord and then stopped it outside of the range. So it creates the illusion that maybe the Zealot's out on the map where it can actually just run back. He's pretty sure that more lings are going to be made, and they were. And so he's going to send that back home. He probably forced out maybe 4 or 6 more Zerglings. We have the Den starting for the Zerg. We have +1 weapons here. I believe we saw a Citadel. I'm sorry, did we actually see a Stargate, Artosis? I didn't
No,
notice.
I did not see a Stargate. There could be one below the Nexus. I didn't personally see it, but yeah, we don't have a Stargate. Okay, so, right? Or, no,
okay,
so, it's at the
well,
natural.
but he's being pretty sneaky about it.
Yeah.
He's definitely putting it in a spot that's a little bit harder to find. And I think he actually started that a little bit later. So, I mean, that's a... Oh, hold on a second. These Lings can get right by. Yeah, I didn't feel like that was as much of a tight wall and did it. So he's going to come in now. It was Citadel before Stargate, which is... It's not bad. It's just a little bit different with how he handles this. But the Lings are going to come in here. They already have done the scouting that they needed to do. It doesn't seem like the Lings are going to do that much more damage, but even delaying the probes from mining a little bit is pretty good.
Yeah, I like that he did try to run them in and does abuse this aspect of Invader with the double ramp. But it doesn't seem like Mini's really taking damage. Like a little bit of lost mining time, but I don't think he's even lost a probe yet. It's actually kind of impressive how good his micro's been. Great pullbacks on these probes, keeping them alive, and of course he's getting that cannon, right? So when that's done, this Ling harassment pretty much is as well.
Yeah, it looks like he is going to get one probe eventually, but at the end, it really was probably the lost mining time that was big. Cool play here from Mini. You know, he sent his other Zealots out immediately. This is always a good kind of counterplay when you're against somebody who basically does that Ling aggression, is to just run right back out on the map with the rest of your Zealots and try to hit them. A lot of times they're just too focused on microing their own Lings to really give the correct attention they need to identify the Zealots are going to come in. But, I mean, that being said, I mean, Soma's control is almost better than Mini's. He doesn't even lose a drone, I believe. Each of the drones is only taking up to 2 hits.
Yeah, both of them really doing fantastically as far as keeping their workers alive, which is the number one thing. You know, people start losing workers in this matchup on either side, and it can snowball pretty quickly, but both showing their level of skill there. Now, the Corsair going across the map, what he is going to find is a finished Hydralisk Den as well as a lair and the Spire coming up. So... like, I feel like it's kind of a weird opener. You don't very often see Hydralisk Den into Lair, into Spire this quickly.
Well, it was also a weird play from the Protoss. It was Citadel into Stargate, right? So I think, you know, this is really Soma responding more to Mini than having, like, this is my build. This is what I planned out before, you know, we had our game really developing. And the delayed Corsairs are okay. Keep in mind that if you spotted a Citadel with no Stargate, you might have a very different approach to the game. Because you would just be thinking, okay, well, my mutas are going to be much stronger later. So, pretty remarkable escape here, by the way, from Mini. He gets both of those back. And there are mutas being made. I thought for sure
he was going to lose 1 or 2 of those. I thought for sure there. But does get them back. He does have some photon cannons ready for these mutas that Soma has made. I think Soma may have thought he was going to get some too, but now suddenly that you haven't even damaged the Corsairs, are these mutas going to be able to do what he wants them to?
Well, you know, when you make mutas this late, it does seem like you're going to be a bit committed. I think we saw at least 5 or 6. Is he going to get any more? We all know the Ogres are gamer meme, but I mean, it is a real way that Protosses die in these kind of games. But I think that nowadays Zergs have also gotten very good at kind of generating the imagery of this, because when Protosses start to see Scourge out, they have to just like collapse back in their base. And I don't see more mutas and Scourge coming out. So he might just be trying to sell the idea of this threat. And you can see the Zealots basically have to scout now, because he's afraid if he moves out on the map with a Scourge, the Corsairs are just going to catch him. In fact, it's going to be mass Hydra.
Well, right now flies in and utilizing these Zerglings to take those cannon hits. Oh my gosh, did he just get the first High Templar? What a kill. Look at this, gonna get another one as well in a natural. Now the Corsairs come back and will punish those Mutalisks, but that feels like that was a good move from Soma.
I mean, that was wild. He used that little squad in a way I haven't quite seen. He basically used them to snipe the Templars. You know that the Zealots have to come out to scout to figure out what's going on. You see Scourge and Mutas coming out this phase of the game. You have to figure out, okay, is he committed to this or is it a fake? And when he does that, he uses the Lings and the Mutas to kill the 2 Templars, which may, Artosis, mean that it's just a Hydra push that wins the game?
Yeah, it could be. There's not that many speedlots out here. They are trying to fight right now while he's remaking at least 1 cannon at home. But losing his first 2 High Templars, like those are the ones that were supposed to have storms to attack, to stop an attack like this. Okay, he does have another storm there, so does get several Hydralisk kills. So it looks like Mini, you know, a redundancy in High Templars has saved him here, and he will get those photon cannons up. So it looks like he has avoided disaster.
Yeah, well, you're always trying to get 4 Templars out. So it looks like the next 2 were made quick enough after the first 2 that they still had Storm. I gotta say, I'm very impressed. to see Mini survive that. That's one way that Zergs can just come in there and stick him with a knife and twist it, and it can usually kill the Zerg off. So, I'm sorry, the Protoss off. So, impressive so far, but it seems like Mini stabilizes.
Yeah, Mini seems to be fine. He has a Dark Templar out on the map. A lot of Hydras at his front.
Yeah.
But I don't think you quite break through with this. It's a little bit too dangerous to really commit fully. A DT goes up into this third base. There is a Spore there. And he gets a drone, he gets a Hydra, and he's going to run out.
Can he save this Forge here? The Forge should be very close to finishing an upgrade. And, wow, okay, he does get that one Hydra to pick that off. 1-1 is done. Oh my god, this DT gets in here. What?
Yeah, that's pretty miraculous. He might not notice this, man. Even though he sees it with the
drones.
Overlord. Ooh.
This is wild. Okay, so, he's doing pretty well with the push. He did keep making Corsairs, so he does have the ability to not just beat the Mutas, but actually kill Overlords here. He even kept that 1 DT away. Mini's so good at multitasking, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, he's pretty insane at this, really. The fact that the DT is still alive up there, and look at this, he pulls this group of Zealots back while another one comes up. There's reinforcements coming. Another Zealot tried to poke into the third again. That didn't work. But look at this. Soma with the nice micro, turning some of those hurt Hydras into Lurker eggs. He's going to try to get those Lurkers out to really staunch the flow of these Zealots. Great morph there as well, screwing up the AI of the Zealots. But he's going to lose his fourth base.
Yeah, this is a pretty big win for Mini. I gotta say, I'm kind of blown away at how good Soma is with using these few damaged Hydras to make Lurker eggs to really sandbag momentum there from the Zealots. Another DT comes in. I mean, he's killed off a lot of drones, Tastosis. It doesn't feel like it when I see Soma's mineral patches, but I know we've seen those kills get executed. It looks like the first Dragoon started. There's more coming out now. He does need to start to get Dragoons out in mass if he wants to push. And unless I'm mistaken, just seeing the Overlords moving like this, I think that Soma might want to set up for a drop in the main, right?
It looks like that. It definitely looks like he wants to drop. It feels like drops have gotten more popular again recently, by the way. With the PVCs, I'm seeing it a lot more. He spreads these Overlords, so maybe not ready for that quite yet. Looks like Mini getting ready to try to push out of this area. He does already have his Robo. I don't see an Observer right this second, but I'm sure it'll be out soon. Because that is a very thin area for a Lurker contained. But don't forget, he has 2 ways to get out of his base.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? You can't really get Lurker contained on this map. It's a thing that, as we're seeing this game pan out, it just becomes more evident. Wow, Mini's really smart. He already has his Corsairs down here. He's basically identified, when you see the speed on the Overlords like this, he might have even seen them grouped up. Oh. This is the moment where you want to try to have those Corsairs ready to catch, but he loses a couple.
A little bit sloppy there, maybe. Another Lurker contain up on that hill there, but that doesn't really threaten, like, it's not in range of where he's going to make that third Nexus. And Mini definitely does have to get that up. Like, getting that third gas, securing that third gas is what's really going to carry Mini forward in this game.
Okay, so some storms come down here. It doesn't feel like Zerg should be able to hold this. I mean, this one Lurker at the back left is getting so much damage, it's crazy onto these Zealots, but, I mean, eventually the Protoss can push through and just kill the few remaining Lurkers, and without Lurkers, Zealot Dragoon Templar always beats Hydralisk if the numbers are high enough.
Yeah, some of those storms go down. He does bring up some more Lurkers as well, but it's mostly Dragoons left over, so not that scary for Mini. Another storm. Wow, that storm dealing so much damage to those Lurkers. Very, very low, killing one as well. And now he holds that high ground. So, I mean, this looks really good for Mini in my eyes, Tasteless. Soma only just now getting his fourth base back up.
Yeah, I mean, he's really playing a strong game. It seems like Mini's trying to force a couple things, and when he loses these small fights, he's getting pushed further and further behind. Soma seems to be okay, kind of collapsing further back. And just trying to set up another position. I think drops are still a real threat here. Let's not forget that those Corsairs were picked off earlier on. And he's actually gotten underneath the army here. He could just counterattack and kill this base off. And, I mean, if you can't get a third base up as Protoss, you're, again, just in more and more trouble.
Well, Mini very quickly rotates back down to try to save it. Loses the cannons he was warping in. but will save the actual Nexus itself, which is incredibly important. Picking off a couple of these lurkers, and those Hydras are going to have to run out of here once again.
And now he's going to get those cannons up again. We've got the Corsair scouting. He's basically trying to figure out, okay, are you going to just stay on this tech? Are you trying to tech up in anything? Is there a hive coming? Are there more mutas being hatched or anything like that? This right now is straight up Hydra Lurker. And so we've got the Nexus done. We don't have it transferred just yet, but he's going to get probes over there shortly. And it's going to be a 3-base Protoss to a 4-base Zerg.
Well, I think Soma's going to have to think about maybe taking another base there as well. Does he have to stay pretty turtled now? It feels like Mini's army is getting into that critical mass where it's like incredibly hard to attack into him.
Yeah, well, he's pretty turtled up. It looks like on this map it's another spot where it's really hard to kind of push anywhere, but Mini seems to think he might have an opening. It's tricky. You never know how many lurkers are exactly behind this, so I think he might have been a little bit too cavalier, sending some of these zealots forward here. But if you can break that position, man, I mean, you get on the high ground, suddenly you've got a really good spot to push from, but I'm worried Mini might have overextended there.
Yeah, it looks like he is still trying to push up, even making an Archon there as he utilizes all of his Psy Storms, but has to back up as reinforcements come down. I think you're right, Tastosis, trying to break there so quickly, it just did not work out. And now without High Templars with that army, he has to be careful.
Okay, the 1DT might be able to slip through here. I think it's just barely out of vision range. If he can get above, okay, never mind. The Overlord's moving, so he'll get at least like 2 drones. Not bad, honestly. But it's not great either. Mini can remake his army. He's getting his 4th base up. It does seem like, as we're watching this map develop, there's not that many spots that Zerg can go to after this. Top right doesn't seem to be that appetizing. Center left, I guess you could try to slip in there, but it seems like, the Protoss he's in reach of counting that as well. We're going to have another kind of force push here. And I think this may be an overextension here for Mini.
Yeah, the flank coming in. Mini trying to break this high ground. It takes so many of his Psy Storms. Has to really push forward with his units. But the flank here of those Hydras just destroying. Look at that, sandwiching Mini's entire army. And Mini is trying to take a 4th during this. So it really feels like these 2 attacks that we saw from Mini onto Soma's high ground did spell defeat for him. GG is called, and Soma going to advance in 1st place to the round of 16.
You see Mini cock his head, and he kind of knows. It just wasn't the right move to try to force his way up there. He actually, I think, was in a winning position for a little bit, but learning how to push on each of these maps, it takes a lot of time, even for the best players, and that just was not a spot he was going to win a fight with. And that was basically Soma's dream, is that the Protoss tries to force their way up there. I think a better play would be to get a 4th base and keep roaming. It does seem like a map where there's limited spots you can really take. Anyways, Soma moves on, guys. He's our first survivor here. In the round of 24, he's going to the round of 16.
Well deserved. The best Zerg in the world right now, really carrying Zerg forward on his shoulders as far as strategy goes. Very excited to have him go out. I was a little bit worried we could see like an upset, like maybe Mong does a Marine Rush or something and Soma's out, but great to see him advance right away. But yeah, this is that first attack that we were really questioning there, right? Like, he has got so many High Templars, he's sending a ton of Zealots up to their doom. And the thing is, all Soma had to do was send down his reinforcing Hydras.
Yeah, I think especially seeing the Zealots just kind of run in there, it looked like there was maybe 10 or so that were killed off. That's the mistake, because when you look at these kind of spots, initially you don't see any Hydras, you see maybe 3 or 4 and the Lurkers, but you have to assume that he's got the other spots on the map defended as well. And when you see Protoss lose these kind of fights, it's when the reinforcements come down, as Soma's identified, okay, he's really trying to push through here. Let me just uproot my defenses at the other location that I've got covered and just send that in here, and that's where it cost him the game. And it wasn't Mini's only attack. It looks like they're going to speed up the replay just to show everybody again this moment where it seemed like Mini thought he was in a better spot than he was. And again, this is not a map where Zerg gets a ton of free bases. It seems like it's probably better to not try to force the game to end with a push, because when you do that and it fails, you just don't have anything to work with. And this is where the flank came in from behind. what looked to many like him about to break this position wide open. In fact, exposed his Dragoons, allowed the Lurkers to then, who were about to be killed off, actually move in and combo with the Lurkers. And from there, the game was done.
It looks like we're going to go ahead, jump over to an interview, and see what Soma's thinking about that match.
Alright, we have the first winner of the Group A match. It is going to be Soma, the Zerg player, moving on to the round of 16. Congratulations. Thank you. You were defeated early, you got eliminated early last season. It was a disappointing result for you and your fans, but now you bounced back strong and you joined the round of 16 this season. How do you feel? Well, I'm so happy, I'm so elated. And I'm so happy to help Mong fulfill his contingency plan. Well, in the match against Mong, we could definitely tell that your performance has become a lot more solid. And your mirrorless micro was phenomenal as ever. But it felt like you could have just ended the game with pure mirrorless, but you instead opted for macro afterwards, so what was that about? Well, the usual me would try to just spawn more Mutalisks and Zerglings to end the game. But my Mutalist micro wasn't that satisfactory today. My hands were shaky. So I decided to go for macro instead, for safety. We got to see a lot of adjustments and change of tempo, looking great today. And you defeated Meanie again. A few seasons ago you defeated him, and now this time around as well. And you know, Meanie cut off the Overlord, and the Dark Templars and High Templars were doing so much work, and the situation looked really bad for you. But you instead maneuvered your army around rather than having them defend the base. So what was that about? Well, I 100% expected Meanie to think that I would veto the map Invader. But I instead practiced a lot of macro play on Invader. And in the early game, I tried to do something with my Hydras, but Meanie completely saw through that. So my whole plan was ruined, and it wasn't the scenario that I had expected at all. And I think it was a 17-minute mark. I went for a timing attack with the Hydras and Lurkers because I thought his resources in the natural would have been dried up by then. And I even cancelled my Queen's Nest in doing so. Meanie then made a mistake, and then I was able to get an easy win. Well, there was so much calculation done in executing that strategy, and that led you to victory. So I wanted to take a look at the fans' reactions after today's match. And the fans are calling you a soma, they're calling you a trendsetter. And you showed us some phenomenal plays today. So your thoughts on this? And usually I contemplate a lot about builds. And in doing so, Queen is actually the main beneficiary of this. He uses a lot of my strategies in tournaments. But this time, I'm gonna try to win ASL. I'm gonna try to set a new career high record. I mean, Soma, considering your phenomenal performance in the round of 24, I think you can get very close to the goal you desire for this season. After taking a little bit of a rest, Soma is back really strong in this season. Any closing thoughts? So first of all, I want to thank everyone who helped me with practice, Royal, Best, and also to the fans and to my university members who came here to support me, and also Chogu. And I think I was able to play well today because of Chogu. He provided me with food and accommodation, so I'm really thankful to him. And I also want to thank my wife the most. She's helped me so much. And this is gonna be my last season before my military enlistment, so I will try to play well and try to play better in the round 16. Well, we will look forward to your performance in the next round, Soma. Congratulations on the win, and thank you for the interview. Thank you. And that'll be our interview with the first winner of Group A match, Soma.
신상문 선수와 윤찬희 선수의 패자전 경기도 함께하시죠.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식스 터킨.
너도 탐세봐 탐세로.
여름이 왔다. 마음껏 청량하자. 청량한 순간에 언제나 칠성사이다.
똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성사이다 제로.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time to kill off one of these players. We've got a TVT coming up next, and I'm feeling Mong on this one, Tastosis. How about you?
Oh, yeah. Mong is simply better at macro than Leta. He's a more modern player in a lot of ways, but, you know, Leta is stylistic. He's got more experience than Mong, so there's always a possibility for him. We're going to go into another of our new maps, La Campanella. It is a 4-player map, and yeah, it's defining features that cross in the center, Tasteless. So a perfect map for 2 Terran players to play on.
That's right. It's a God-fearing map with that cross in the center. I read this as L.A. Campanella. I'm like, which tent city in L.A. is that, Tastosis? No, I mean, this is a different map. I don't know what to make of this map yet, to be honest. I think it's kind of true for any map that's new, but this is definitely one of our maps that's got a lot more interesting ideas at play. There's this vacant area in the natural expansion that is, I guess, behind the natural that seems like, especially in TVT, that could play a very big role. It also seems like the base that you would take, I guess, organically as your third is kind of pointed in the middle of the map. So it does seem like, as TVT goes, this could be one where there's a lot of opportunities to really strike at each other in this matchup and punish each other. I think this actually could be a map that would create for generally shorter TVTs. What do you think?
It could be, because you're right, that like expansion that you get to from behind the minerals, like you could siege that extremely easily from the middle. It looks like a map where you're going to want early map control, but there seems to be a lot of doodads in the center of the map, which could screw up vulture movement. So, I love seeing families in here with their kids, man. Absolutely awesome. So nice. Raising them right.
Yes, honestly, if you're a kid, this is probably one of the funner things you can go to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, live video game matches happening here. The studios have been filling up, by the way. This is a very big, I guess we call it an esports stadium. I know that you and I always refer to it as a studio because we work out of studios, but I guess in Korea they do refer to them as esports stadiums or arenas. This is a big one. And you can see, even in a losers match TVT, it is packed down here.
Well, it's an exciting group, right? It's the opening day of ASL, which is always really, really hype as well. Having Mini and Soma both play 2 of the best players in the world. Very, very fun stuff. And of course, you got to stay to support Mini, even if you don't like TVT. But yeah, let's see how this goes, man. Definitely, I agree, though. I'm favoring Mong. Let's see if he has what it takes to punch through here and get another shot at getting out of the group.
All right, guys, game 1, the only game between these 2 guys on La Campanella. Let's get this going here. Leta versus Mong starts now.
All right, in the top left here, we have Leta. And in the bottom right, we have Mong. So that's going to be cross-spawn, which means no advantage as far as those spawns go for this matchup. And it also means if either of them chooses to go for a very fast command center, it's going to be really good.
Yeah, yeah, this could be a long one then. Again, I did say earlier that, you know, it does seem like you could create some shorter games in TVT on this map. I think it's probably easier to do if you're close, like if you're both sharing the top, as an example, or both sharing the bottom, due to the way those expansions are shaped. But let's see what happens with these two here. Tastosis, you were mentioning earlier that Mong is a more modern player, which I think is very true, and that Leta is stylistic. I'd also almost say that Leta is still kind of an old style player, to be honest, even though his style has always been kind of weird. There was a period where when Leta came out and started doing what he was doing, people were trying to figure out, like, is this guy way ahead of his time? Is this what we're all supposed to be doing? And people would mess with it and you know, go for rates in a lot of these games where it didn't, you know, didn't seem like it was maybe the best thing, but the way that he did it made it look quite strong. And he's very much stuck with that. You were talking as well in that he's been taking some pointers here from Light, and I think it's probably, you know, with the length that StarCraft 2, the lifespan it's had, and it's likely to just go on indefinitely in the future, it's probably never too late for a player like Leta to try to start to build in styles from other modern pros and try to see if he can kind of bolster out his play. Because he has probably, out of all the players in all the races, been the most pigeonholed strategically. Would you agree?
Yeah. I definitely can't disagree with that assessment. Like, you know, it's it's such a common thing that we've seen from him in the past. These very kind of technical plays, these stylistic plays, and there's nothing wrong with having that. But if you, oh God, Mong isn't mine with it. Okay, you got it. If that's what you kind of rely on all the time, and you don't have superb mechanics backing it up, you know, that's where you get in really bad trouble. Like, for instance, that's why Fantasy is so good. He's very stylistic and technical, but his mechanics behind that, he's able to macro like Mong, you know? Maybe not quite to that level, but somewhere in there, whereas that has always been the problem for Leta. You know, so the fact that he has been working on that, like, I mean, at this point, for most of these pros, they've already done like military service, and they're still pro level and stuff. It's like, just fix everything about your game. It's pretty clear we're all going to be playing this game until our hands don't work anymore. So you may as well kind of complete yourself as a player. It's not like, you know, maybe before in the Kespa era, it makes more sense for him to, for instance, lean into his cheesiness and his technical builds to try to, you know, get as many results as he possibly can on his, you know, on his contract or whatever. But at this point, it's like you got to just make yourself full.
Yeah. I think you really got to try to complete the picture there and build in as many other styles to your play as you can. By the way, one thing that always... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Tastosis.
I have to jump in here because this is a good mind game from Leta. So he's walled in, he has one Marine there, and he's gone 2 factory. When you see a wall in TVT, it's a very rare thing. 99% of the time, it means Wraith.
Right.
If you wall in one base, like when I see that, dude, I start an eBay, okay? Because it's like, if you're walling like this, it's like, yeah, you don't have anything behind there. So, like, you look at this and you say, okay, it's either 2-port Wraith, or they're really trying to trick me into over-defending, and there's, like, a command center being built, right? So those are kind of the ideas you're looking at. Here he's going double add-on. So I think what we're going to see is a siege tank. Well, maybe not. Maybe this is going to be Vulture, but, like, realistically, I think the best play here is like a siege tank-based attack, because it really looks like Wraith. So if your opponent goes Goliaths and you go siege tank, that's going to be good for you.
Yeah, and, you know, let's not forget, we were just talking about how Leta is infamous for doing the 2-port Wraith style, right? So it's kind of like a mind game that he's, you know, he's mind gaming Mong because he knows his reputation is one where it should be this Wraith build, right? But in fact, it's not. But if this build, if he can't get anything done with this, it's going to be pretty bad. And when you see the 4 Vultures come out, it's not a secret anymore. This is cross spawns on this map. I would imagine that Mong just gets a wall in time, and that's the end of that story, right?
I believe that in between an eBay and a depot, you might be able to run vultures. Yeah, I see he hold positions the tank there to try to stop that. In fact, you can even go to the side. So, like, I mean, this is almost. Well,
I'm watching a Terran die the way the Protoss do to Zerg. This is great. I mean, you thought the wall-in was right. It's not.
Yeah, I guess not. That was a huge blunder there from Mong, and now there's mines being laid up at the front to get his tank. Honestly, this was pretty bad from Mong, man. Like, Leta's going to snap him. But you normally make a bunker when you know your opponent's cheesing, and he chose not to do that. The rest of his build seemed okay, but, like, he didn't wall right. I don't know how to explain it. Like, if you don't know the wall, I guess, you deserve to lose, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is the truth, man. He does snipe that one mine. He has one tank. He's not mining gas, but he does have enough gas to make 1 or 2 more tanks, but he's almost at the point where he doesn't have enough tools to pick these mines off as they pop up. A Goliath and a tank, they do all fire instantaneously. They don't have like a bullet that has to connect at the same time. I mean, we're seeing vultures continue to rain down here. Mong is hanging on for dear life.
This is incredibly bad, man. Like, he is super dead. He's at half the supply. He's microing back. There's mines everywhere. He's trying to target those mines down, and he is doing a pretty good job of that. He is killing some of these vultures, but, like, from here, Leta has so much power from this position because he has speed and mines. He has 2 factories with add-ons, and he's making his command center. Like, this is a position you dream of, right? Like, how would you lose this as Leta?
Can a Goliath and a tank together snipe one mine? I don't know the math on this. I guess the answer is
yes. It takes 2 Goliath shots or 2 tank shots, so yeah, 1 of each would work.
Now tanks are going to come down here. There's still mines at the natural. I thought that we were going to see Mong tap out. Mong is no doubt limping through this game. Okay, I mean, he's in really bad shape. I like the idea of floating the 3rd command center there. That might just go under the radar there for Leta. But if he gets siege mode up here and could just try to draw some more shots in here.
Yeah, he goes ahead and sieges. Oh, man, his tanks targeted the mine instead of the other tanks. But Leta should be able to get out with 1. Little bit sloppy there. Trades 1 siege tank for 2 Goliaths. It's fine. Leta has his natural up. He has a lot of SCVs at it. He's up a good 20 supply. I do like that float over for Mong. That was actually like a good spurt of the moment. It's like, okay, at least I can get my SCVs starting to get produced here again. But now that Leta is setting up a containment, and you're sitting here on 1 factory as Mong, you're trying to get a 2nd fact, you don't really have a port or anything. The position is just wretched. Like, if this is a ladder game, you just leave it.
It's brutal right now. And he's going to siege up over here, and I don't know if he knows there's a mine out there, but he is going to just, Leta's just going to come right in here. And I mean, with these tanks having no way to defend themselves, they will actually be killed off by mines. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Yeah, he's getting some great hits.
Yeah.
And, Mong, the position continues to get worse. Like, he's trying to make units. He's trying to rely on the fact that there's been a lot of vultures produced, and it's a late expansion that maybe he could come back from. But as you can see, like, there's really nothing. I think he's
pain here.
He should just GG probably. Like, there's just, like, the only thing going for him, I guess, is he does have that expansion over to the side, so at least he is mining something. But look at this. He's trying to pull SCVs to fight against the tanks, and there's mines in the way. Sometimes you can, like, use SCVs to block those mines as you go through and try to do it that way. But this is a nice surround. Should have been a Warcraft 3 player. Okay.
Oh my God! What an ending!
Oh man.
Oh my God! What a way to go down,
dude. Leta with the fist pump there. That was like kind of a dangerous, risky build from Leta, because if you do the full wall, if you get a bunker up, suddenly those speed vultures, you're looking at them and they're not looking so hot because you don't get any damage done. Mong, you can see a little smile on his face. He definitely, the flub on the wall, what can you say? Like, the vultures slipped through, and that's that.
Yeah, you got to know the wall, and the truth is sometimes these players have not prepped every wall in for every map and every matchup.
Yeah,
It's
and there's
not
all
every
the
day you deal
positions
with
too, right?
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's the story there. He thought he didn't need a bunker, and Tastosis, did he ever need a bunker?
Yeah.
And so, Leta knocks Mong out. Mong is our first death here in the ASL for the round of 24. Gotta say, I thought I knew who was going to win this. I thought Mong should win this in a pretty cool game, no doubt. But instead, Leta comes back, and he's going to go up against Mini. So this should be a very fun one.
Yeah, that one could be interesting, because I think Leta will have something pretty darn aggressive set up, something really technical as well, and sometimes stuff like that can screw Mini up.
All right, guys, well, we're going to be going to a break in a second, but when we come back, we're going to have the rematch of Mini versus Leta, and let's not forget, that was a crazy cool victory there from Mini, so this should be a cool game with these two, no matter how it pans out. We'll be right back.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식스 토킹.
너도 탐세봐 탐세로.
여름이 왔다. 마음껏 청량하자. 청량한 순간에 언제나 칠성사이다.
똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성사이다 제로.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time for the final match in Group A here for ASL, the second season of the year. And it's a rematch, actually. It's the matchup that we started this out with. Honestly, an excellent game here. It's going to be Mini versus Leta. Now, Leta, it looked like he actually had Mini dead, and Mini, with I think one of the best tactical moments in all of ASL, managed to basically nuke the economy and the scanner of a two-base all-in from the Terran, only to basically, at the last second, survive with DTs versus the push.
It was a good play. There's no question about it. Like, he really read what was going on very, very well, had a plan in mind, had those DTs already making when he targeted it down, I think. Yeah, you can't really say too much negative about that. Very well done, but you know, stuff like that, you look at that, it's like, ooh, this could also be a little bit risky, right? And that's the thing we've been worrying about with Mini. Is he going to do something that's not that solid? Honestly, I think if you put someone like Best or like Snow up against Leta, they probably go 2-gate Observer after Nexus, right? They make plenty of Dragoons, and take their third base on the right time, maybe into Reaver, and then Leta doesn't have a lot of spots to get you. Whereas Mini, he optimizes so far in, one direction or the other, aggression or greed, that I could see an opening for Leta to maybe sneak a victory here, which would be a huge upset.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mini's supposed to take this, right? I mean, of course he's going to take it, but at the same time, I am worried after seeing Mini with, again, I mean, really cool, smart strategies, but he does seem to be, especially in best of ones, prone to just not playing, I think, the kind of game that would ensure him a win. He's a gambler is a wrong word. He's an odds guy for sure. Like, he knows how to kind of get an advantage, but, Leta's unpredictable. Leta has already shown that he's very willing to cheese. We just saw that in the last game. We're going to go to Neo Dark Origin here for the final map in the 5 games that we get today. I don't know, man. I'm ready to just hop right into this one.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Final match, who's going to be eliminated, who's going to the next round. Big favor on Mini. And it's Neo Dark Origin, by the way, which is actually very Protoss favored for this matchup. This is an extremely tough map for Terran to push into any sort of fourth base or any sort of attack. Reavers and Psystorm are really unbelievably strong here.
Yeah, it's definitely something that can be abused. And then you got to ask the question, is there some way that Leta wants to play around that? When you get these maps that, maybe your race has a hard time developing in the matchup, maybe it's time to play a different kind of game. Maybe not let them get into that kind of position, maybe do something all-any, but then again, is that in of itself predictable, right? There's all these mind games that go on even before the game starts out. Mini, after winning an ASL, has had many disappointing ASL seasons past that, so this is his chance to redeem himself. Leta, I mean, he's going to be all over the news, man, if he takes Mini out here now. He just has to do it in one game. Let's see what happens. All right, guys, we've got Mini here in the top left. We've got Leta here in the bottom right. We, of course, are going to make our final plug here to try to push you to go sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/ASL English. We appreciate it. StarCraft has been our life, is going to continue to be our life on into the future, and we want it to be part of your life as well. So if you want to support us in our endeavors here, not just Tastosis and me, but the staff that helps us translate this and edit it, we hope we've earned your support.
Definitely check out patreon.com/ASL English. Sign up for a year if you can, and thank you everyone for your support. We really appreciate everyone that's made this possible. It's truly the couple of highlights of our year.
Absolutely. It's nice having this tournament we can come back to over and over again. And it's also nice that the game just keeps evolving. I mean, this is crazy. These guys already showed us a real evolution in thought for Protoss. And by the way, I mean, Leta looked like he was going to win game 1 that these guys had together. It looked like it was pretty clear. And so, StarCraft, it just does seem to be the perfect RTS where we still see new ideas come out. We still see different strategies and the application of different theories. And it's this never-ending cycle, just like chess. Obviously not as old as chess, but you know what I mean. We're still able to kind of stand on the shoulders of giants, all the stuff that we learned early on, and keep building on it from there here, 25 years later, a quarter of a century later.
It's truly the greatest game. Like, there's no question about that. The most infinite skill ceiling of any game out there. Simply put, that's it. That's the end of it. Higher than chess, higher than Go, higher than anything. And it's beautiful. To see all these different strats and stuff. And I mean, look at this, right? We're on Neo Dark Origin. Mini has sent his probe quickly. He's harassing a lot, and you can see like the amount of mining time he's forcing his opponent to lose. He's stolen the gas. He's forcing the game into this kind of almost weird position here for Leta, where now he has to decide. And there's there's like so many decisions. Like how do you eliminate the gas? Are you going to put a bunch of SCVs on it, just a few? Are you going to utilize Marines? Are you going to get a third depot? Are you going to try to get a bunker up at your natural and go for command center? Instead, are you going to add a barracks or maybe go for some sort of factory rush here? It's like there's just infinite here.
Dude, he's so good at snaking behind these SCVs and just moving shotting this. And I mean, it's a lot harder than it looks, especially when you're just doing all these other things like making your probes mine and you know, you're going to harass with a zealot. It's kind of crazy to see him pull this off. I think that Leta's played a pretty good response. This is basically what you want to do. If the Protoss doesn't take their own gas, they're doing the modern variation of gate gas steel expand. You know, originally when we saw this build, it was proxy gate, gas steel, and pressure. Yeah. And then we saw a lot of gas steels into just like Dragoon range into expand. And then this is the one that Mini and Bisu and Snow all really like, which is this Zealot pressure. And we see a new tactical add-on here in that he's going to... Dude, is he going to lose like a single Marine? This is insane.
That was pretty damn good.
Whoa.
We'll give him that
was
one, man.
like actually perfect. Just to finish that idea that I was talking about, this is like, you know, the version where you try to make a nexus as quick as possible and pressure with zealots. But Mini already overextended with his first zealot. The other zealot's damaged. The third has slightly damaged. They don't have shields. And you have to be very careful when you do this build that you don't drop zealots, or you can lose control of the game pretty quick.
If you throw them all away, I mean, it becomes pretty rough. And look at this, though. He is doing a great job. I got to tell you, open this with a great tactic, flanking with the zealot he hit to the bottom. And now he's killed so many of those Marines that were at the beginning so perfectly microed. Very frustrating situation here for Leta.
He needed to accumulate a few more zealots. You need to get that critical mass where the zealots have taken so much damage they can't really get in there and do that much. And I would say that Leta is on his back foot right now, to be totally honest. This is pretty bad right now for him because the zealots are continuing to minimize the Marine count. And
this is truly terrible. He's lost every single Marine. He has to keep making them. And the problem that I really have with this, other than the fact that the zealots are ravaging everything and killing SCVs even at this point, is that Leta has been over 550 minerals for minutes. For minutes.
Yeah.
Literally anything would have been better than what happened here for Leta. He could have added a second factory. He could have thrown an academy down. You know, there's so many things that he could have, even a second barracks, anything would have been better than sitting at 550 plus minerals for 2 minutes while you're trying to deal with this.
And there's definitely a number of Marines that you want to stop at. Like, you have to make a lot to survive this rush, but when you have made this many Marines and they've been traded out for zealots, and the Protoss has been mining from a second base and getting gas quicker and teching up faster, I mean, it's so bad. And this is exactly what can happen after that, is then you don't even respect the Marines in the bunker because you have shields. You can run by and try to take fights. And in this case, it looks like he's going to run by and just run right back out, so it's kind of a funny interaction. This is still, I guess, okay. At least he confirms that there's a tank out there.
Yeah.
And that's what's being teched up into. But, I mean, this is a very good game here for Mini. He did have a few moments where he overstepped with the zealots, but at the end of the day, that big trade on the low ground where he really kind of came out on top, that's all he had to do.
Yeah, this was certainly well done from Mini, and certainly you have to look at this and give him the edge right now. Leta is going into a 2-factory play, and don't forget, you know, he killed a lot of Marines, but also he did lose a lot of zealots, and there's good production here for Leta. He's got 2 factories, and he has the barracks, and he's been making Marines pretty steadily. So I feel like there's actually a bit of potential with this push, right? Like, this is a pretty darn greedy build for Mini. He went 1 gate, 3 nexus, or no, I guess 2 gate, right? He did add the second gate in his main base. So, but he doesn't have that many units right now.
Now, he doesn't have a lot. The Zealot here for the Protoss is really handy because it tanks quite a bit more. He does go in for the attacks on the Dragoon, on the tank, excuse me, with the Dragoons. Realizes it's not going to get that much done. He backs up. And, you know, Mini's playing a pretty straightforward game. He's basically getting enough Dragoons to hold everything off. He's going to get observers out here. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Tastosis, that's insane.
Yeah. Will that open itself up into possibly a continued attack here from Leta? Like, 3 of those goons are super, super low right now. If he repairs his tanks quickly, I could see him going over and busting all these goons down. You target correctly, and they're going to be screwed.
He's going to come in here
from an angle he doesn't
flank.
see. Oh my God! Great move there from Leta, and Mini is going to have to run up in the opposite direction. But there's actually mines laid there. Tasteless. Mini may have screwed up.
Yeah, I mean, I think he wasn't respecting the fact that you know 3 bridges is a lot of area to cover, and you know if the army can slip out from underneath you, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. The observer's out. Leta hasn't made that much more ground. Okay, you know what? I think he can be okay. I think that he can survive this. It's very hard for Terran to push up the 3 bridges.
Yeah.
But Mini has to be careful, man. Those Dragoons are so low on HP, a couple stray tank shots, and they're going to be gone.
Yeah, it looks like right now Leta is setting up a bit of a containment. I don't know how useful that this is actually going to be at this point. He doesn't have that many factories, and there's Reaver Tech on the way here for Mini. So Mini's going to have those shuttles he can kind of fly around with. In fact, moving the Dragoons through the map right now, I don't see any, like, okay, there's the observer. I was going to say, like, he's getting a little bit crazy at this point. We know there's mines all over the place, and he will be able to clear them down here. I think that this just makes Leta retreat for now.
Yeah. Leta's going to back up. You know, he's not really doing anything with this push. By the way, there's no 3rd command center, so this is going to be 5 factories again. But this is a very different game, right? Look, I think that Mini, even though he's made some pretty big missteps and has made himself a lot more vulnerable, I think he's actually okay. Surviving a 2-base push from Terran is never that easy, but I think if anybody could do it, it would be Mini. He's also getting the Reaver Tech. I don't imagine we'll have this game end the same way we had Game 1 end here, but he could just fly in the main with shuttles again. I mean, it is a possibility if Terran drags their feet on the push too much.
Yeah. I do want to mention, I actually like the strategy chosen here by Leta. I actually find 5-fact to be the strongest build on this map for Terran because you can get a containment up. So we'll see if that works out for him. A nice sell-up on there, dragging mines in the tank and getting a very fast kill. Dude, Mini is playing really nicely here, kind of breaks through everything. This containment that Leta has put a lot of effort into setting up, really not doing anything. Mini is just circumventing it.
Yeah, this is one way to play. I wasn't expecting the full-on counterattack, but I like the idea. I mean, basically, what you want to do is you want to cut the Terran off from these other locations. Look at this. He can just put the Reaver down here and just snipe from in range over here. Oh, man, yeah, he just snipes that one Dragoon. One tank with the Dragoon.
Yeah, he's doing a great job with this push, man. Like, not a whole lot left here for Leta. He's sieging up, and he will be able to push this back, but it really feels like Mini is starting to get into control of this game.
Yeah, well, I mean, just putting the Reaver back here, and the truth is that containment doesn't do anything anymore. He's going to run up to this one tank. He can snipe that with a combination of the Dragoons. And, you know, look, if Terran's not mining on their other base, they're in so much trouble right now. You know Mini hasn't missed a beat. As far as production, yeah. I mean, dude, there's no way. What?
Yeah, that's a lot of units.
What?
That is a lot of units. Mini has done a good job of just kind of massing up here on the 3 bases. He actually still has a kind of big bank. He is starting to spend it down a little bit. But Leta's having a very hard time just clearing this push that hit into his natural.
Yeah, and I mean, the interrupted mining time was huge. 3 tanks is no joke, especially across small bridges. And I'm curious to see, does Mini actually try to bust this, or is he just going to bide his time? Feels like he could bust it, right?
Yeah, I think he goes around, controls the center, and then he can bust anything he wants, and then he has control of the center. And that's like, we were talking about this a lot last season for Dark Origin. This is Neo Dark Origin, just slightly different, but almost the same thing. And this central control really is the powerful thing
It's
on this
everything.
map. Yeah. Whoever has that is going to be the lead.
Well, one way to always beat a Terran who's going to go for a 2-base push is to get in between where the push has been established and where the reinforcements need to go. Oh my gosh, you're just going to go in here for another counter? This is so crazy. I guess you can.
Is this... I don't know if this is really that great a push, honestly. Like, that is a very far back defense from Leta, so I don't think he's going to, like, die or anything here, right? Like, that was pretty efficient as far as defense goes.
Well, this seems like it's an overly complicated way to play the game. He should have just come up and obliterated the outpost.
Yeah.
With what? There's like 2 tanks there now. Yeah, and I guess there's Marines inside that bunker. But like, wipe that out. Now you know what? This game could go on for longer. Now I think Leta could get another command center. Protoss is still on 3 bases, which is, you know, you get far enough in a game like that, you should have more bases up. He's got 1,000 minerals. You'd probably want to have up almost 5 bases pretty soon here. He's going to get another one. He might have estimated what is actually here. There's nothing really here.
Yeah. Really, you're very right about that. He could send like a third of his army and cleared it realistically, and he will go ahead and finally clear this out. That was kind of an important moment. I was actually almost wondering, is there any chance for Leta to push out and meet up with that? Because, you know, already having turrets there could make a follow-up, you know, containment actually very, very strong. The Vultures getting in, getting a couple of High Templars here. He's starting to rotate those Vultures a bit more, but I don't see a great plan to go forward here from Leta.
Yeah, I mean, what is the end game here for Leta? He is remaking things, certainly. I think that Protoss could actually start to control the area below the Terran's bridges at this point in time. Oh, I think we're going to go back into that kind of mass shuttle play. You know, why not dive bomb the main? I don't even know if there's that many turrets in the main itself to really deal with this. A lot of times when the Terran's been really strained on a 2-base push, they don't really have a lot of resources to focus in on protecting their main as much anymore. And so
especially this angle that you're coming from, that's like the last place you would defend. You know, it's just, it takes longer for the shuttles to get there. Looks like he does have 1 turret here, but I think that's probably going to be it on the way into the main.
Yeah, and I assume there's Reavers in the other shuttle. Okay, there's a Reaver in the other shuttle. And so he might have actually not made Scarabs with it. I think that's what happened. So he had to remake it, pick back up. But you can just basically draw attention back in here. A Reaver can eke out so much damage. It's kind of crazy, but I'm also a little bit worried here for Mini. I feel like he's made this game kind of difficult for himself now. You know, you can keep Terran on 2 bases for a long time, but if they eventually get the 3rd and you can't get in there and hit that, the game does go on, man.
Yeah, maybe there's some chance for Leta to get something done. Like, these drops so far haven't been good. Okay, that's a good size storm. Ends up with, what was that, about 6 SCV kills? But, well, actually, when I look at the supply taste, it's 173 to 102. That's the type of supply that attack moving through minefields will still kill, you know? Like, there's just not many units for Leta.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're right. I mean, he seems like he just doesn't have a lot. Again, moving Brood War units en masse through narrow bridges, pretty hard sometimes. So, but I think you're probably right. The math should be such that he could just clobber him with this. Let's see how this next attack goes here for Mini. I think the positional setup is pretty good with the depot, the turret, the mines, and everything.
Yeah, comes in. The mines and the depot actually doing a very good job of kind of holding him back. Mini comes in with more zealots now in the 2nd wave, and they are starting to get on top of some of these siege tanks. The Dragoons getting cleaned pretty well. Wow, huge size storms on those SCVs. And the supply right now, look, if you're at 17 minutes with 65 supply as Terran, the game is over. He is dead, man. Mini has crushed.
Yeah, I mean, that is a pitiful amount of supply, and Protoss is remaking. A lot of the tanks were killed off here. A lot of the SCVs were killed. This isn't always how we see Terrans fall, but it's a very different way for Terran to die because their income engine has been beaten up so badly that it's just hard to get anything else out. And he can keep storm dropping. And, you know, look, the truth is, SCVs, they got a lot of hit points, so they don't always get killed right away by the storms, but they're usually not repairing each other. There's usually not a medic here. And so what you'll have is, you know, even if the SCVs aren't all killed off with the first or second storm, they're killed off with one of the storms.
That's very, very true. I've almost thought maybe you should make a medic at some point against this. But
I think it is. I think it's not bad, actually. Maybe we'll see people do that eventually, but I think having one medic in each patch, or at least, you know, the two that are being stormed, probably not the worst idea in the world.
Yeah, it might end up being something. You know, we still have a lot of evolution left in this game, no doubt about that. But a couple attacks from Mini have been pretty weak. Leta is trying to rebuild his supply. You can't let Mini get this base down here in the corner. That becomes, like, incredibly dangerous for you if he's got that expansion. Does slip a tank down there pretty quickly, so maybe he can deny it. There's a possibility here.
Okay, a push is going to come up. Like, I mean, this is kind of a funny Terran push. I'm looking at what Mini has, and it's not exactly a lot, right? But I guess as long as 4 Dragoons can two-shot a tank and get through those mines, it's going to be okay. I think
you'll be able to save that Nexus.
Yeah, that Nexus is going to be fine. I think the issue we're seeing Mini run into is it's hard to kill a Terran off on this map. I mean, it's structured in a very punishing way.
Yeah, like, all the attack paths are difficult.
Yeah.
That's why we talk about how strong containment is, right? And that's why I was talking about how, like, Reavers and Psystorms are good, because when Terran starts to try to push out of the third base, because the thing is, if you're stuck on 3 bases, you will lose. You need the 4th. But getting that 4th is the hardest part about this map for Terran.
Yeah, we've got some more Templars dropping here. And it looks like a couple more SCVs are going to get killed. The rest are chipped away at.
Honestly, it feels like he's being a little bit wasteful with it, Tasteless. Like,
yeah,
I don't know that you need to storm SCVs anymore this game. I think at this point, if you save all your spells for the army and you just grind it down, that should be enough.
Well, I think the idea is you basically have enough for both. I mean, if all your gas just goes into Templars. Reavers cost not that much gas, nor do Dragoons. I do wonder about maybe, I don't know, going for, like, carriers or something in these moments where it's like they're just on 3 bases and they can't be killed, but
yeah,
I guess there are problems that could arise from something like that as well.
Yeah, like, the carriers might open up some sort of timing attack. There is a possibility of that. A couple storm drops come out, just damaging those tanks. Yeah, gets those other 2 tanks that were clumped up. Very hard to push over these bridges. You know, charge lots run in, draw that tank fire. You can throw down those Psystorms as well. Leta is trying to push over the bridges, so this is going to be a more aggressive push. He's not going for his own 4th, but rather to kill the 4th here of Mini. Yeah, and Terran can't get out of these bridges, get across here and claim some territory and then reinforce. It's going to be a very tough game, no matter how you cut it. By the way, Terran about to drop down to close to 70 supply with this next attack coming in here. If we can get any more storms up on these vultures. Looks like the attack is getting a little bit clunky here. He finally kills off that last tank that's out there and is now going to have to, like, panic storm and try to kill off these vultures. It's really kind of funny looking, where, like, Mini only has, like, portions of his army in the middle fighting, and, like, the vultures actually did do a great job, and he's lost all of his High Templars that were there. But more and more are on the way. Every single base here has gas, and so Mini has, like, as many High Templars as he wants this game. Yeah, I mean, that's the big issue, right? I think there's going to be another drop over here to try to storm this. A pretty instinctive scan, by the way. He's like, wait a minute, are there shuttles over here? There are. So Mini actually backs up. It was actually double Reaver. But I mean, Leta's out here. He's out here hustling on the middle of the map, Artosis. He is. He's pushing that base. Hustling is all he can do at less than 100 supply against an almost max Mini here. Sigma male grind over here, you know. Okay, so more storms come through here. More SCVs are hit. The third base is forced to lift, which I think. Well, hold on a second. This is a fortunate spot to have Reavers in. What do you know? Yeah, very hard to push against that. Going to have to utilize a lot of scans and everything as well. And look at this. He's pushing in. He's like, yes, the 1 Dragoon 5 High Templar push. This is the way to do it. And so it was as he pushed through that third base. Looks like Leta just barely not going to kill that base. This getting cleaned up as well. Leta below 60 supply this time. Again, not a recoverable position. Hasn't been for a little bit. Like, Leta's putting his heart into it, trying to figure something out. But Mini's just had the lead for too long this game.
Okay. This is peak StarCraft as High Templars running into Spider Mines. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, this should be basically the end here. I don't see any way that Leta can ever reclaim his third base now. He's at 45 supply, and that's going to get even lower. And I think we'll probably see him tap out here. In fact, his hands are not even on the keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
At least actually, we're hearing the remaining scans. This is like the I don't want to watch the replay scans that are coming out now.
For sure.
This is I'd rather just see those scans and then leave the game and not have to watch the whole replay myself. Mini wins, but you can see he's frustrated. It was a very rocky early game. There were a lot of moments where it seemed like Leta had almost taken control. I think especially the second counterattack into the main, very regrettable from Mini. I think he made the game a lot more complicated for himself, and this is something we have to keep our eyes on going forward, because he does seem to, and it's weird, he seems to struggle in groups specifically. He doesn't. Yeah. He's had some very bad group stages. This was one that, it was a pretty simple decision. All you have to do is get in between the push and then sandwich it and open it up and then deny their third. Instead, he went for a very weird counterattack, a second counterattack. Now, the first one was okay. The first one was pretty cool. The second one was questionable. And it made for a pretty difficult late game where, Leta just wasn't easily killed off.
Mini definitely, he was over eager to end the game, which you don't want to be. It's important to be patient. Of course, there are moments with Killer Instinct where you do want to move forward, but like when you get these big advantages, you can really take a moment, reassess, and then figure out the best way to do it. And it doesn't feel like Mini is taking that breath and looking at the state of the game.
Yeah. Well, every phase of ASL is an opportunity to improve yourself. I like these images of players. That's so funny. Yeah. You can see which one Mini is there. That face he makes when he's not happy with the game. Well, we're going to take a quick glimpse at, some important moments in this game, but I guess we're going pretty far back in here. The storm drops were huge. I think we've seen a lot of Zergs lose the games to storm drops over and over, but it seems like this is a very appropriate way to take on Terrans now, especially when a Terran's on like 3 bases. You pretty much have 2 spots to storm drop. If you get like 2 really good storms off that get SCVs, you've killed around 40% of their workers, 35% of their workers. It's huge.
Yeah. If you start dropping Terran like below 40 SCVs or around 40 SCVs, like the game is pretty close to over at that point for Terran. You have to retain your economy. SCVs, like SCV count and tank count, those are the 2 big things in Terran versus Protoss. Like, you must retain both of those. Everything else is somewhat expendable.
And the truth is the shuttle style is not going to go away. It just seems like having more shuttles, even double robo, very worth. We're going to go to that interview now and see how Mini's feeling.
All right, we have the second winner of Group A. It is Mini. He is advancing to round of 16 after taking down Leta in the final match. Congratulations. Thank you. Last season, you had a bitter loss and you had a quick elimination in the round of 24. But now you bounced back strong, and now you're in the round of 16. You put on an ambiguous smile afterwards. How do you feel right now? Well, in the first match, my hands were all warmed up. I was feeling good. And I usually make a lot of mistakes with upgrades, but I didn't do that in my first match. So I thought I would definitely win the winners match. But in the winners match, I had a huge lead. And the map itself, I normally gain more lead in the mid and the late game. So I gain more lead as I go on. And I thought I would win that fight on the ramp as well, but I lost that one, and that cost me a lot of mistake. And I would normally just go for macro if things were even, but I let my guard down. But you put on a phenomenal match afterwards. You took down Leta twice to go on to the round of 16. And it felt like in the final match you were playing a bit more carefully, a bit more passively because of the match against Soma. Am I right? I mean, I knew that he had no units, but I still couldn't do the attack ground command. I was playing really carefully. I knew I had a huge lead. I knew I was gonna win easily. But I was being really careful until the very end. I think this round of 24 match is gonna be really important to you. You learned a lot of lessons. So we can only look forward to your performance in round 16. And I'm sure you have a lot more cards up your sleeve. I mean, yes, and it cost me a lot of mistakes in the winners match, so I learned a lot from that. So I can play it better in the round 16. And recently you have been playing a little bit poorly against Zergs in ASL. So I think you're gonna have to try avoid Zerg players in the round 16 group nomination. Actually, I'm quite confident against Zergs in the best of series, but in the best of one, it's hard for me to maintain the lead. And when I'm on the back foot, I tend to rush things, and that costs me the game. So in the round 16, I think I'm gonna have to try and just play proactively, play more, you know, offensively in the match against Zergs. Well, we'll definitely look forward to how you play in the round of 16. We know you're a player of high caliber. There are so many interesting cheer play cards, and there are so many interesting fan signs here. So I think you're gonna have to go into the round of 16 with a different mindset. So anything else you want to say? Well, after my last ASL win, I earned a lot of fans, but I think that my fans were disappointed because I get eliminated early. So this time I'm gonna try to soar up higher. I want to thank my script partners, Hero, Royal, and Sharp. Well, Minnie, we'll definitely look forward to how you perform in this season of ASL. Once again, congratulations on making your advancement. Thank you. And that will be it for the interview with our second winner of Group A, Minnie.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for Group A. Quite the crazy, dramatic set of games we had here. Only 5 StarCraft 1 games, man, and a very, very long recording for us here. I got to say, each of these games was pretty sick. Even Leta getting cheesed out there with the lack of wall and the TVT was kind of funny. But look, at the end of the day, it's the 2 people we expected to move on. Soma and Minnie survived to the round of 16.
As it should be, really. Like, these are 2 players we don't want to lose early on. I feel like sometimes it can take the wind out of the sails of the tournament a little bit if the best Zerg goes out or something, right? So great to see them go forward. Our next matchup going to be very interesting as both Rain and C, who have moved on to being more of variety streamers, are back in ASL.
Yeah, Rain winning an ASL and then just fully pulling out of StarCraft 1. And I don't know how big his stream is now, but at the time it was huge. Mm-hmm. And I mean, let's see what he can do. This is the guy that won GSL. He won ASL. We would put him in the category of like the greatest RTS players that have lived. It's very rare you have somebody succeed in 2 StarCrafts like he has. And who's to say he can't come back and win an ASL again? I think this guy is extremely gifted. C is a monster. He's been in the ASL finals before. And with Sulky and Calm there as well. Sulky is, you know, always a giant in any ASL, and Calm is somebody you never want to sleep on.
That's right. Calm has actually been up at the top of the ladder a lot lately. So he's very good. He is in very good shape. But yeah, I guess we'll see how he's going to end up performing. It seems like a tough group. Sulky and Rain, I think, these are the guys that I am looking towards as being two of the strongest players in the world. Can't wait to see how C plays, though. That's going to be fun.
And we're going to have that recording out for you guys ASAP. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the support on Patreon. That's patreon.com/ASL English. We love you guys, and we will see you again very soon. Bye-bye.